Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Grump, you know what I just noticed? I know you'd mentioned something about this earlier, but I wasn't really looking at the screen. We're wearing our matching uniform today, Grump. We're wearing the enemy of the cartel, both of us today.
Yes, we are. Isn't that interesting? I'm doing it for a specific reason. Because once again, I am the curve. I am the curve. You're listening to all these people. I am so far ahead of everyone else. It's not even funny.
When you say stuff like that, it almost sounds like you're a WWE wrestler who's like doing like you're trying to like rile up the crowd. I'm so far. That's almost what you sound like, Grump.
But I am. How long have I told you the Islanders aren't contenders? Here's the one that you have to look at a little bit and kind of read between the lines, but you know what's going on. I've said for quite a while we're not contenders. At the end of this year, what were all the pundits, all the media cartel, what were they saying? What were they saying? Every single one of them. COVID. It was COVID. It was the arena not being ready, playing all those games on the road. It wasn't fair. The poor Islanders were right back. But now you're hearing from all these pundits, all of them, we are not contenders right now the way the roster is currently situated. And I'm like, okay, what have we done since the end of the year to now?
How many players did we lose?
None.
Since the end of the year to now, Grumpy, because remember, last year was an anomaly. It was plain and simple, Grumpy. It was done and dusted. It was COVID. It had to do with the 13-game road trip to start the year off. It had to do with a little bit of injuries. I mean, Grumpy, come on. That was just, it's settled science, Grump, on that one. So we should already be contenders again because everybody's back to healthy. We don't have to worry about a 13-game road trip this year around.
But once again, everyone eventually comes around to my way of thinking. I'm a visionary. Grumpstradamus. I gave myself that name for a reason. I am the curve.
Oh, God. But hey, before we jump too much into today's podcast, because today we're going to be talking about the New York Islanders 2022 NHL Draft. We're going to be talking about what the unrestricted free agency landscape looks like at the moment. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about, what, again, grades we give on the draft, who we like, where we thought maybe a pick could have gone a little differently or where it could have been more beneficial elsewhere. We're going to talk about a few of those items here today. And I think we're going to open up the phone lines. We want to hear what the people. I know it's the off season, right? It's time to start hearing and time to start opening up the phone lines. I want to hear what the people have to say. And we'll go ahead and be doing that probably about 30, 45 minutes into the show. So we will be opening up the phone lines. But before we get too much into today's show, if you're new to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast, welcome. We invite you to stick around a while. We invite you to subscribe on YouTube, to like on Facebook, and to follow on Twitter. This is a twice-a-week hockey podcast that talks and covers the New York Islanders. We go live every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also do have an additional podcast called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. It is an all sports podcast where we talk anything from NHL, NBA, NFL, college athletics, European soccer. We talk anything and everything sports on that podcast. It happens every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You could find that in the link in the description below, or you could find it here as I'm popping up on screen as a featured page on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So
do it.
Last Wednesday.
Subscribe, like, whatever. Do all that stuff. We need your help.
Exactly. So on Thursday, we had the NFL draft or the NHL. My God, how many times do we want to say that again? The NHL draft, day one, first round of the NHL draft. The Islanders, if you've been living under a rock or are not aware, the Islanders traded out of the 13th overall selection and acquired Alexander Romanov. We went ahead and then traded. We acquired a 4th round pick, so we had selections in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th round. Grumpy old man. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we think about Callie Odelius. We're going to talk about Quinn Finley, Isaiah George, Matthew Maggio, and Dalen. Ooh, I'll never be able to pronounce that last name, and I don't think it's going to matter because he probably won't make the team. How do you pronounce that? Dalen? What is that?
Coughler.
Coughler. Dalen Coughler. So we're going to talk about all
let me
those.
just tell you, I just want to jump in real quick. TJ was calling because before he's like, "Who is the guy's name?" I said it's Dalen. He keeps on calling him Dylan. I'm like,
I want to say Dylan. I don't know. I don't like that there's an A after. I've never met a Dalen before in my life.
Okay, his name is Dalen. It doesn't matter if you've never met one. If you can actually read and look at the words, you spell it out, Dalen. And he kept on saying Dylan. I'm like, dude, it's Dalen. So he finally gets the first name right and he gets the last name wrong.
Dalen Coughler. There it is, Grump. But we're going to talk a little bit about those 5 selections. We're going to talk about, I think that Odelius was a good selection, a value pick at that spot late in the 2nd round, the last pick in the 2nd round. That's a guy who, going into the draft looked to be one of those guys who was a surefire 1st round pick, if not an early 2nd round pick. And when you catch him late in the 2nd round, it's another one of those situations to where Lou Lamoriello goes ahead and identifies, a guy who's a value selection in the 2nd round, a guy who's best player available on the board, and a player who has slipped, just like he did last year with Atu Ratu.
I'm just surprised that he didn't draft more forwards. I mean, you traded for the defenseman. Now it looks like your defense, your top 4 is set, right, for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
And then you draft a defenseman in the 2nd round. You go with a wing in the 3rd. Then you draft another defenseman. How many defensemen do you need? First of all, I mean, they signed Robin Salo back today. Ostensibly, he should probably be your 3rd pairing left-handed defenseman with Scott Mayfield this year. And it's like, we have, I'm just kind of a little bit baffled.
I have Lou Lamoriello's mastermind plan. Tommy B hooked me up with it. Again, he gets all the inside scoops ahead of time. Now, obviously, no, Tommy didn't give me any inside scoop on this, but I seriously have what I think is going to happen during free agency, what I believe to happen. So I do. And for those of you who have a Twitter, we have a very scientific poll that we've put out there. Again, it says time for a very scientific poll. So it's going to be based in science and very accurate as to what the fans' opinions are. But we're asking for the grades of the New York Islanders 2022 NHL Draft, and we'll be accepting the Kyle Palmieri F double minus grade, but that can only be in the comments. Sorry, they didn't give me the ability to put F double minus just for shits and giggles. It only had 4 items I could put on the poll. But if you want to put an F double minus, just go leave it in the comment on that. But we do have a poll out to see what you feel about the Islanders draft this year.
Again, Kyle Palmieri is just an F minus, not an F double minus.
Bullshit. You said it was an F double minus.
I've never said that.
You said F minus, and you did in their typical grumpy way. You said F minus. No, F double minus. I swear you said F double minus.
Everyone knows it's an F minus. You're the only one. I mean, are you even part of this show? You ever listen to it?
I am part of this show.
F minus.
Okay. Just F minus. Okay. Fair enough. Well, let's talk about Odelius first, Grumpy. What did you think about that selection? What you watching over there, man?
Actually, one of my favorite movies of all time is on. It's on MLB Network. I'm not actually. I do happen to have it on, but I'm not really watching it. It's The Pride of the Yankees on MLB Network.
Holy shit! Turn that thing off.
It's
Grumpy.
from 1941. Is when that movie came out, and what turned me into a Lou Gehrig fan. I for a long time I thought Gary Cooper was Lou Gehrig, but I always had a crush on Teresa Wright, who plays his girlfriend/wife in that movie. So,
well, Grumpy, why don't you hit pause on it? We're going to talk about a few of those.
No, I shut it off.
What do you think about Odelius, Grumpy? I've kind of given it right when I looked at his play. This is a guy to where I had him. I thought he was going in the first round. I remember I had gone through players that I was interested in the second and the third round of this year's draft. I never would have expected him to be available, right? You look at a guy who he's not the biggest defenseman out there. He's like 5'11", 6 foot. He's not huge. He's, he's got good skating ability. He's very mobile. With the puck. He's very elusive out there too. He's got the ability to make those quick breakout passes, has good vision there on his passes. And again, good puck control, wins stick handling, and breaking out of his own zone. So you're looking for one of those guys who can go ahead and lead an offensive rush, and one of those players that does help bring this team into the 21st century when it comes down to hockey. And, defenders have to be mobile. They have to provide offense as well. This is a type of player that fits that parameter. And when you look at, places where you could improve and weakness spots that he's got, with all of these guys who are very offensive minded when it comes to a defenseman, they can use a little bit of boning up and a little bit, and they could use a little bit more time there, improving their positioning in the defensive zone. And again, he's not a guy who's very strong. He's not a guy who's going to body many people off the puck. He's not going to be a very physical defenseman. So adding some weight, adding some physicality to his game.
Yeah. Don't expect to see him at a rink near you anytime soon. But it seems like he has tools that you can work with. Number one is he's a really good skater. No offensive ability to speak of. But I mean, a solid pick in the second round.
Well, you said no offensive skater, no offensive ability. What do you mean?
No offensive. He's not an offensive defenseman.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
I think of a guy. Okay, I think of a guy who's good at breakout passes, a guy who's good when it comes to vision, a good passer, crisp passer. Is he a guy who's got a great shot? No, but does he provide offense with his ability to find open men and to get the puck to the right area? I think that makes him a guy who's more offensive minded as a defenseman, in my opinion.
No, he's a modern NHL defenseman who is a guy who can get the puck out of the zone. I consider Noah Dobson an offensive defenseman. So I don't think that this guy is. He's more of a defensive guy. Not that he can't, advance the puck. I'm just talking about somebody who drives play. That's not what he does.
You think he's more of a defensive defenseman?
Yes. No.
Okay.
Okay. He doesn't score. He doesn't score. An offensive defenseman is someone who scores points. That's what an offensive defenseman is. Cale Makar, offensive defenseman.
It's not like Cale Makar is the only person that could be
Devin Taves, offensive defenseman. I mean, on our team, we have one offensive defenseman. That's Noah Dobson. That's it. The only offensive defenseman we have. This guy is more in line with the other players that we have on defense.
Do you consider a guy like Ryan Ellis an offensive defenseman?
Yes.
I do. He doesn't score. He doesn't score in droves, Grump. That's my point.
He did when he was with Nashville.
Hold on. You don't have to be putting up 50, 60, 70 points a year as a defenseman to be an offensive defenseman.
Okay.
Ryan Ellis has never cleared 41 points ever in his career. He's an offensive defenseman now. I'm telling you,
but he
fits the mold of an offensive defenseman in my book more than he is as a guy who's a steady Eddie defenseman. He's more of an offensive minded defenseman, Grump, in my opinion.
Okay, Ryan Ellis put up points in juniors. Okay, not everything translates to the pros, but here's the thing: if you're not putting up points in juniors, you're not going to all of a sudden become an offensive juggernaut in the pro game. That's just not going to happen.
He put up 30 points. I'm talking about O'Daly's put up 30 points in the under 20s. I mean, that's good production.
In the under 20s. Okay. Whoopsie do.
In the under 20s, he's playing as a 17-year-old. Oh, man. He only put up 30 points in 40 some odd games.
He's not going to be a guy who drives play. I don't know even why you're arguing with me about this. I like the pick.
He's a defensive defenseman, and that's just not him.
I think I don't. He's not a dynamic performer offensively, just not. And here's the thing, I haven't seen him play. I'm just reading what everyone is saying on him because I haven't seen any of these kids actually play. Not a one. I'm just going with the consensus of everyone who says is. He's not great offensively. He's solid, a really good skater. I mean, that's fine. I can work with that. You need guys like that. But he's not a guy who drives offensive play. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that he can't play in the NHL, but don't expect him to be Noah Dobson.
Not. I just think he's more offensive than you're giving him credit for. Anyway, I think for the spot where they selected him, I was never expecting him to be available at that pick. I like the selection there.
Okay, so do I. I like it too.
That's it? There's nothing else?
No, because I'm sick and tired of you picking apart when I disagree with you. You're attacking me. I don't know what's going on with you today.
I'm not watching it, Grump, but I feel like you're still watching TV. Anyway,
TV's off, bro.
anyway, so that's all you want to talk about. Nothing else you want to cover on Dailies. That's fine.
No, I like the pick.
I do too.
He's a solid defenseman. Two-way defenseman, tools we can work with, and he can skate. And it seems like he's, aware defensively. I'm not asking for much more than that with the second round pick.
Okay. Again, I'll go back and I'll hammer that point. I think that we've taken the best player available approach. I feel like in the last year, at least with Ratu, I felt like that was what we did with that selection. And I feel with Callie Odelius, it was the same exact thing. Best player available. I'm happy. Anytime we're drafting best player available, I'm happy about a pick like that. Okay. You're looking at the third round, Quinn Finley. Now, people may have remembered I was a big Ludwig Pearson guy. Big fan of him, was on the board, was selected like 3 or 4 picks after we selected Quinn Finley. I think he was selected by the Washington Capitals. I wish Ludwig Pearson was a selection for the Islanders. I don't dislike the pick of Quinn Finley. I think he was a little bit of a reach there, perhaps. He's another one of those guys who's a very, very quick skater. He's very, very good. Speed is one of the strong suits of his game. He played in the USHL, didn't necessarily light it up, didn't put up points in droves. But again, he does have the playmaking ability, and he can finish in and near the net. Not afraid to play in the middle of the ice, not afraid to drive the net. He's not overly huge. He's got a lot of room to put weight on, he kind of looks young. When you watch him go down there after getting drafted, you kind of see his face. He kind of looks young. He's not one of those young men who look like he's not one of those guys. He looks more like a boy still than a man, if you know what I'm saying. He still has to physically develop. He's one of those pieces it's going to be far away for a guy like Quinn Finley. And when I think to myself, right, places to where he can use improvement on. Just as I said before, he's very skinny. He's very slight. He needs to put weight on. He needs to get stronger. That will all come with time. And, when we're looking for a guy like this, his defensive consistency for, back checking is not necessarily a strong point of his game just quite yet. He will learn that as he continues to mature. So it's not a big problem point. I like my forwards to be guys who can put the puck in the net and have unbelievable offensive acumen. Quinn Finley does have the ability to skate, can finish near the net. It's a good selection there. I wish we had Ludwig Pearson.
For a third round selection, like I said, and once again, I haven't seen any of these guys play, but I like the pick, right? I like the fact that he's got speed. And what did we see in these first 2 picks? We saw guys who were plus skaters for the most part for their positions. So it seems like Lamoriello also has realized what I've been saying for quite a while, that we need to transition away from the slog it up and down the ice style that we've been doing the last number of years. And it seems like we're looking at skating in drafting players. I have no problem. This young man looks like he has some offensive ability, needs to get bigger and stronger for certain. I think he weighs like 165 pounds.
Yeah.
Soaking wet, needs to definitely get bigger, but he's going to have time. Again, another guy we're not going to see for 3-4 years at the earliest. But he does have the skills, particularly in the third round. He has a skill that, okay, maybe that translates to the NHL, his speed, and he's able to beat defenders with his speed and pace. Well, you know what? Great. I'm all for that. I like that pick. Don't have a problem. I know you were a big fan of the Pearson kid.
I was a fan. I had a few guys available, right? In the third round, I thought there were going to be guys that slipped. A guy like Alexander Prevolov, he didn't continue to slip. He still slipped in the third round. That's a guy I had at the top end of the second round, but I think the Russian factor hurt him. I wish we would have taken a little bit of a gamble at a guy like that, grumpy old man. And I mean, like Danny Zilkin went right before we went ahead and selected. So, that selection and opportunity was gone too. I feel like there was a lot of those guys who I like that went right around that area or a little after. And, Quinn Finley is a guy that I was familiar with, not a guy necessarily I had at the top for that spot. But I mean, it's still a guy who can skate, and that's something we desperately need to improve upon.
And once again, we're talking about, guys who are probably all in the same area, and it's just a personal like thing. I mean, getting somebody who could.
Devin Kaplan went before us too. It's another guy I liked on the board, but he was like a few picks before us too.
Well, if they're going before us, there's nothing we could do about that. So
if you like the guy, you trade up 3 or 4 picks to get the player you like. I mean, like the Ludwig Pearson guy was available. He went like 4 or 5 picks right after us to Washington. I do remember that. I said, well, son of a bitch.
Well, but maybe they had a grouping of players that they liked relatively the same. So instead of giving up an asset, you just kind of pick whoever falls to you. And maybe, Finley, maybe some of these other guys were rated a little bit higher with the exception of the Pearson kid. and maybe the Islanders would have picked them if they were available. But, you have certain guys in a grouping. It's like, okay, do we want to give up a fourth round pick to move up 5 spots? I don't think so, particularly if you have a group of 5 or 6 guys that you like. And it seems like they were happy with that selection. I have no problem with it at all. And hopefully that's somebody who can contribute down the line. We don't have many offensively talented forwards in our pipeline at all. So, I mean, to me, he shoots right to the top.
He's going to be playing, and I think he's playing I think he's going to be playing for Wisconsin. He's one of those guys who's going to play college hockey. So you're looking, he's at least probably 3+ years away.
Yeah, at least. Yep.
Yeah. So, one of those items too, at least, right? When I say at least, it's probably closer to 4 because he'll spend 3 years probably in college, and then he'll need 1 year at least in the A. He's one of those guys that's one of those project pieces. Isaiah George Grump was the 4th round selection that we had. Defenseman, another guy who could skate and skates extremely well. He was a rookie, I believe, for the OHL. I think he played for, was it the London Knights?
Yes, London.
Okay, he played for the London Knights. He's got great skating. He's one of those guys when you look at his stride, everything looks smooth out there. And again, he's got the ability to really put on the burners. He played a lot of different roles. He didn't play any power play, if I do recall this correctly. He was mostly a penalty killer, played a lot of minutes, but wasn't a guy who provided much offensive punch to the party. Didn't really play a power play role for the London Knights, if I do recall. He's athletic. He's able to cover a lot of area on the ice. Again, he's a good skater, of course. It kind of makes sense. And, you look at him, moves the puck well in transition. You look at spots to where he can use room for improvement, offensive production, obviously not utilized on the power play. That's something you want to go ahead and see. He continues to step his game up in that avenue. Sometimes his decision-making on the puck could be a little rushed and kind of looks a little antsy. That's one of those you go, oop, that's going to come hopefully with age. That will sort itself out. And I think this guy is, he's kind of one of those safe type of picks. He kind of seems like a steady Eddie as a defenseman, and players like that do need roles and have roles in the NHL.
Right. And once again, he is a plus skater. He was selected with the 98th overall selection, which came to us in the Montreal trade, where we got Romanov and gave up the 1st round pick. So I'm just wondering why we picked another defenseman there, honestly. But, I guess if they felt there was something special at him, I'm fine with it. But like I said, a really good skater, and he's really good at defending and breaking up rushes. I read an interesting article on him, and something that what makes me kind of like him a little bit more than somebody else. They had asked him about his skating. He said his plus skating, and this is what he's saying, is not really naturally given. Through minor hockey, he worked on it extra, especially summers with power skating, even off ice. He worked with a coordinator for coordination, footwork, and movement drills. He enjoyed it, and he's trying to improve, and all translated well to his skating ability. I like a guy who goes out of his way to work hard in the summer to see something that, okay, maybe I wasn't the most naturally gifted skater, but I'm going to work on that tool. So it makes me kind of root for a kid like that, to be honest with you. And like I said, he's a number of years away as well. Maybe this is why the Islanders started drafting these defensemen. They see the guys they got in the minors, Mitch Von de Sample, Parker Witherspoon. Those guys never going to make it.
Well, I guess Bodie Wild doesn't really have much of a future either.
No, I don't think so. But why would you not move somebody like Bodie Wild then?
I was about to say his value gets lower and lower every year. You just hold on to him and don't do anything with him. So, I wonder if he'll be back in the AHL or wonder if he'll be in the AHL this year. They're going to ship him back off to Europe because he's not vaccinated. One of those guys I really wish would have taken a chance on late in the draft. I think he went in the 5th or the 6th round. Vladimir Grodinin. He's a guy small defenseman he's a very risky defenseman. He's a guy who provides a lot of offense. He's one of those electrifying, fun players to watch, but he's one of those guys where either he pans out and he's fantastic or he's just abysmal. And in late selections like that, I like to take risk on a guy like that. So I don't remember who he was picked by. Oh, 5th. Oh, let me go ahead and pull this up here. I think it was in the 5th round. The Carolina Hurricanes selected him. And that was a guy that I had on my board where I was like, it'd be nice maybe if we target him later on the draft, but no worries either which way. I thought Isaiah George for the spot where he was selected. I think it's a value pick, and he's one of those guys with a low floor or very high floor and maybe not so high of a ceiling. If he brings any offensive creativity or improves offensively on the puck, that's one of those guys that could really be valuable to your team going forward as a top 4 defenseman.
And just look at, I think it's a conscious effort that was made not to go after the big, tall defenseman, which you look at everybody on our team right now, 6'3", 6'2", 6'4", all big guys, right? But what are you seeing around the rest of the NHL?
You can go after a tall defenseman, but they have to be able to skate.
Right. But what I'm saying is that used to be a prerequisite for us was, size. And now you're seeing, the Islanders below, once again, they're not on the curve. They're on the back end of the curve. They should have been with the curve, and we'd be much better than we are now. But that being said, you're seeing both of these defensemen 6 foot tall. Okay. They can skate, but they're not, redwood trees back there. And I think maybe you're starting to see, and that's what it is in most of the NHL right now. It's about moving the puck, speed. Don't have to be the biggest guy. I think that's just I think that's what you're seeing, an organizational shift somewhat when it comes to picking defensemen, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
I like the Matt Maggio selection at the 5th round. You know what I mean? That's a guy that he's an overage player, right? You look at the 5th and the 6th round picks we had, Dalen and Matt Maggio, both were guys that are overaged. Maggio's a guy who I think was seriously impacted by COVID, at least regarding his career. He got done playing in the OHL. And again, he only played like 45 games. That was during that COVID time period, missed the tail end with COVID, or during that COVID time period as they kind of had stopped the Memorial Cup, I believe, at the end of the 2020 season. And then he wound up not even playing in Canada that next year. I think he was loaned out into a team on the Swedish Elite League or somewhere in Sweden. And then this last year, he comes back to the OHL and he goes ahead and tears it up, lights it up on fire, given as an overage player. But he played well, and he went from a guy who was putting 14 points up in 45 games, the year before his draft class year in the OHL, and then he goes ahead and puts up 85 and 66. The guy really did take that step forward and didn't get a lot of time, only limited action when he went on loan there in Sweden. So, I like the selection there as a 5th round pick, a guy who maybe was impacted, maybe one of those guys who could be a diamond in the rough. And because COVID had affected time on the ice and affected actual game experience, it didn't allow him to mature and develop at as quickly of a rate as he had expected. And he's a guy who really benefited from that extra year and really shined.
Could be. Like I said, you're just kind of grasping at straws at that. I don't think there's anything that really stood out about him, just from what I'm seeing. But, hey, anytime he was in Washington's preseason camp last year when he didn't get drafted, and it looks like, he's just trying to get better. I'm rooting for him, of course, as an Islander prospect, but I'm not putting any eggs in his basket right now.
If that was a kid who was able to play in the OHL last year and it didn't have everything with COVID that prevented that, and he didn't go over to Sweden on loan, he was a guy that I think was a shoo-in to be drafted. I firmly believe that. I like the selection there. I think that's one of those value picks later on the draft. It's like you're gambling into casino in Vegas. And that's a guy I don't mind throwing down some money on. Dalen, Coughler, Grump, I'll let you go ahead and speak a little bit about him. Again, an overager. He's 20 years old. I can't even tell you I've really done much homework on him, to be quite frank.
Yeah, he's 20 years old. 6'2", close to 200 pounds. I don't know how much he was in his first draft year. Played for Kamloops.
He's 2 years. He's 2 years removed from his draft class, I believe. He's 20. So he should have been drafted not last year, but the year before. Maggio should have been drafted last year. Coughler or Dalen Coughler is 2 years removed.
Right. He had 38 goals and 59 points. So as a 20-year-old, you expect bigger numbers, right? Same thing with William Dufour, right? Same thing.
You're looking at best case scenario, guys, at bottom 6 are there.
Right. I would say that. And they also said that he would do anything for the team. They tell a story here where he got hit in the face with a puck. in their playoffs, and he was took a nasty thing, and he wound up coming out and scoring a game-winning goal. And so it looks like he's a guy certainly would probably be a candidate for the fourth line if we could ever get rid of the 40-year-olds we have on that team. Maybe that's someone we could look at going forward. Who knows? But he's definitely a grinder type, a character guy. So, you know,
As a second-round pick, if he plays any games in the NHL, it's a successful selection. If he plays even more than a year in the NHL, it's a successful pick. If he could be a fourth-line guy for you for 2 or 3 years, it's a successful selection.
Yeah, I just want to say one other quick thing about Isaiah George. You know, he dropped in the rankings from mid-season to the end of the year in the central scouting rankings, but he had mononucleosis. So, you know, maybe that dropped him a little bit because he was sick.
You miss time and you're sick and you feel sluggish for weeks. People who've had mono know that. I mean, like that would always happen where kids would catch mono on the team and they would miss time and they'd come back. It would take a few weeks before they're feeling back up to snuff. So
maybe he's a player who, if he had played, you know, without having the illness during the season, maybe he could have been somebody that should have went in the second round. We won't really know, but you know, if we get him in the fourth, that's good for us.
Yeah, I like that selection. I think I was happy with the draft overall, right? I was the first round, which we haven't talked about. You may be noticing we've been avoiding that like the Black Plague. But the players we actually selected this year, I was happy with. I was happy with the players selected. It wasn't like we had any of those selections where you say, oof, why are we drafting a guy who's 6'4", doesn't skate well, doesn't put the puck in the net, doesn't fight, doesn't pass? It wasn't like we were drafting guys like that. So, you know, when you look at least the production and you look at, you know, the strengths of some of these players, you watch them film on them, I was, again, happy with it. Sure, there was a few players that I wish you would have selected just because I developed, you know, some sort of I don't even know how to say it, but I developed some sort of inkling to think they were guys who should be targeted, who would be around a little later, but had that top end product or projection on them that we didn't select. But I still thought, as a whole, players selected, I was happy with. Let's talk very briefly about the trade of the 13th overall pick. Grump.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
I think the big downfall of our draft is I don't think we drafted anyone who's an impact player, or even has the potential.
When you're drafting, when your first draft pick is at 63, hard to get impact players.
Well,
can you agree?
But if you have a certain skill set that could lead you to potentially be an impact player, I just don't think we have any of those.
Ludwig Pearson's one of those guys who's an impact caliber.
Okay, we didn't pick him, so it doesn't matter.
We had him available in the spot.
Okay, stop. Please stop. He was not on the team. He wasn't picked by us. I'm talking about our selections. I realize I don't understand why you're on with this Pearson fella. Doesn't matter. Maybe you just like the name Ludwig. But for me, we didn't draft him. Doesn't matter. So, you know, it's not like we say anybody, oh, because I remember
guys that I liked that spot, even in the third round, like Julian Lutz. That was gone.
Didn't happen.
We had players available if they would have traded up to get them. But
they didn't. They didn't.
That's correct.
You want to know why they didn't? Because we have no one in our farm system. So you couldn't afford to be giving up 2-for-1s. I guarantee that's the reason why.
You couldn't afford it. You couldn't afford.
When you have no one in your farm system, it's not like you're going to trade like 2 picks to get one guy.
Do you think there's a guy with higher top end talent, like you just had mentioned, Grumpy, that our team's devoid of, that we need down there? You don't think if we were to trade up 4 or 5 picks, we couldn't throw in a 6th round pick in this year's draft and say, done deal, we need to move up 3 spots in order to get our guy? You don't think we could have done that in the 3rd round? I think so. So, I mean, like, we could have done that. We determined not to. Okay. So you said, hey, we didn't have one of those impact players. I'm just saying I thought there were certain players that could have projectability to be an impact player. We just determined not to draft them. And a lot of them went before us in the 3rd round. I like the 2nd round selection. I thought for where he was selected, great value. We could have traded up in the 3rd round in order to get one of those players that I still thought were a tweener between, if everything falls right, they're a guy who plays in a top 6 or top 4 role for your team. So, but hey, you know what I mean? Maybe Quinn Finley could be a guy like that too, but he's many years away.
They're all many years away, all of them. None of these guys drafted in the 2nd and 3rd rounds are going to make the NHL next year. Not one.
That's
not
correct.
Even one.
That's correct.
Many years.
I'm not saying they are.
Okay.
What?
Okay. So let's go back to the 1st round.
Well, no, you took me. I was steering in that direction. You took me somewhere else.
Well, I just wanted to bring up that I just wanted to bring up that I just wish we would have got somebody who you looked at and says, okay, he could potentially be a game breaker or something like that.
You don't run across very often players like that after the 63rd overall pick. You understand? When you're trading away the 13th overall selection, the likelihood of you finding a guy that has that game breaker ability and you're trading out of that selection, you can say, oh, our next pick's at 63. It's not like you're going to say, I'm finding a lot of guys with game breaking ability at pick 63 and later. You understand what I mean? Kind of where I'm coming from?
No, but what I'm saying is when you see other teams who draft later, I'm just going to throw Tampa out there. A guy like Braden Point, he's, was electric, had great hands in junior, scored a lot of points. That's a guy, hey, if things break right, he could be a game breaker for us.
There were players like that. Our team determined not to draft them, in my opinion. Maybe a guy like Quinn Finley could grow into that.
All I'm saying is we don't have any players like that. It doesn't matter where they were drafted. You should look for, particularly in later rounds, you should look for guys who have a certain skill set that could translate to the NHL. We just draft a lot of steady Eddies. That's what we do. Steady Eddies.
Say Quinn Finley has a steady Eddie. I wouldn't say he's a guy like that. I wouldn't say a guy like Odelius is a steady Eddie.
Odelius is the definition of steady Eddie. That is his definition.
Okay.
Steady Eddie.
Like you're talking about in the first round, 32nd or 31st overall, Tampa got Isaac Howard. That's a guy who's slipped. That's a guy who's small, a guy who puts up points in droves, extremely offensive talented. But again, when you trade out of the 13th overall pick and you don't say, I'm going to trade back maybe to the 20s where I could still get a guy like that and I could go ahead and use draft capital to get a guy like Alexander Romanov, you get yourself in a spot where you're saying, I'm only picking at 63. The Isaac Howards aren't on the board at that point. You can maybe get a guy because Isaac Howard's a smaller guy, unbelievably offensive skilled, who slips to 31, right? But when you're drafting at 63, guys like that don't slip to 63.
All I'm saying is we didn't get any of those guys in the draft, regardless of what the pick wasn't picked. Doesn't matter. We didn't get that type of player. Okay.
I would say it's almost self-inflicted because we had a 13th overall pick. We could have got one of those players, but self-inflicted.
Last year we got Atu Ratu, right? In the second round, where you could say, okay, that kid looks like he's got something special. We don't have that with any of our picks this year. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the trade. We were sitting at 13th overall. We make a trade with it's a three-way trade with the Montreal Canadiens and the Chicago Blackhawks. We go ahead and trade away our 13th overall pick, and we get Alexander Romanov and a fourth-round selection, which was the first fourth-round pick in this year's draft, Grumpy. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think he's a fit for the team. I think it was a gross overpay for Alexander Romanov, a guy who can go ahead and lead offensive rushes in transition, and it's a guy who's more of a steady Eddie defensive defenseman. But I'll let you kind of go ahead and share your thoughts and opinion.
Okay. I don't know if I'd say a gross overpay. An overpay, very possible. But I wouldn't say a gross overpay. If the pick was 27, would it have been a gross overpay? No. It probably wouldn't have even been an overpay because you're getting.
I would have been happy trading the 27th overall pick.
I'll just say it was an overpay, not a gross overpay, which is fine. Okay. And I understand the theory of what he brings. 22 years old, potentially can team up with Noah Dobson, more of a guy who just stays, more of a defensive defenseman type, good skater, right? Physical. You know what? I understand why they did it. Is it the right player? That we'll have to see, but I understand why they did it.
Okay.
Honestly.
He brings cap certainty, right? He's not even where somebody could go ahead and try to bid after him as a restricted free agent, right? He's under complete team control. That's a plus for us. He's a guy I think who fits in well. The issue I've had, and I thought about this, how could I try to articulate on today's show the way I felt, right? How could I articulate how I feel about Lou Lamoriello? And I've come up, I think, with a pretty good analogy. What do you want to stop me for? What is it, Grump?
Just one thing. I just want to say that TJ's Thursday articulation was F, 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 F. So I'm sure this one's going to be a little bit better. I'm waiting to see it. I just hope it's not a repeat of Thursday. That's all.
Thanks. Grab yourself a drink. Man, you sound draft-throated. But let's get to what I'm thinking here, Grumpy, on this. I think Lou Lamoriello, as I've mentioned before, anytime we're trading away assets, we get underpaid. And anytime we're trading for assets, we overpay. And I was trying to think, how could I find a way to try to articulate that? And I hope it's not going to fall flat on its face. This is something usually Grumpy does well, but I'm going to try to put the Grump hat on today.
Okay.
So it's going to be an attempt. You know what it's like when you go to the store, Grump? Your mom or your dad shopping out there, you're a kid, and they say, Hugo, go buy yourself the materials you need for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They give you $5. It's almost like Lou Lamoriello in this hypothetical experiment. He's going down the aisle, right? He's got to get his peanut butter, he's got to get his bread, and he's got to get his jelly. He needs all three of those items. Well, it's almost like when Lou is strolling through the aisle, he's first going to shop at the peanut butter aisle. Don't ask me why. But he's shopping at the peanut butter aisle. He finds it. He's not getting Peter Pan or Jif. He's getting some expensive type of creamy ass peanut butter that's gonna suck up his $5 allotment. It's gonna be about $4.50 on it. And what he's gonna do is he likes that. I'm gonna overpay for this peanut butter, even though I don't need to have the best peanut butter in the world. I could survive with Jif or some cheaper brand peanut butter, because the objective is creating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The objective is winning a Stanley Cup. I just need peanut butter, I need jelly, and I need bread in this scenario. He overspends on the peanut butter, doesn't have the money to buy the jelly, and he has to underspend on the bread. In this scenario, right, you're overspending on the defenseman. You're not going to address at all the need of the forward, so that's the jelly, and maybe they go ahead and add a bottom six defenseman in this scenario, which is the cheap version of the bread. We're going to have a complete component missing because of that gross overpay. You could have very easily in this year's draft class traded back from pick 13, traded into the 20s, made that same exact trade, and now you had yourself probably a late second round pick additionally. If you traded back 7 or 10 picks from 13 to 23 or later, if it was possible still to get Romanov, which I firmly believe you could have, he's a young defensive defenseman, but a defensive defenseman. Defensive defensemen do not get traded for 13th overall picks. It just doesn't happen. You could have very easily still acquired more draft capital to add to this team's lack of a prospect pool. That is where the issue lies for me. I think it was an overpay. That is the problem.
Okay, you're right. That fell flat.
I just sit over there and drink your little.
Honestly, that dude. Stay in your lane. Okay,
why don't you just stay in your lane? Your little protein shake
just and stay in your lane, please. How many people left the podcast listening to you go on like that?
Grumpy,
I almost left.
Had the record highest report on the podcast ever, Grump.
Oh my God.
You stay in your lane, which is the senile old man.
Can I just poke a couple of holes in that theory for you?
Go ahead. Poke holes.
Okay. What was Montreal going to do? What was Montreal's end game?
To get Kirby Dach.
Okay.
So this all came on Chicago.
That's right. Chicago wanted a pick inside the top 15. They didn't want Montreal's pick at 26. Didn't want it. So that doesn't work. Unless you give up the 13. And I'm not saying
hey, Montreal, you're going to have to give up your second round pick in addition to that, or you're going to have to give up a third round. You're going to have the onus is upon you to make your deal work with the Chicago Blackhawks, Montreal. We're giving you the 20th overall pick or wherever we trade back to. You're going to have to freaking pony up and give a little bit more. You're not giving us your fourth, so go ahead and give a third or give something else to make that deal work. We're giving you the 20th. Make it fucking work.
Again, now see, when you actually say it that way,
Grumpy, you act like the fact that, oh, well, they wanted a top 15 pick, and because that was the case, we just couldn't make it happen.
Well, no.
Chicago wouldn't have. Chicago didn't want to pick in the second round or the third round, and they didn't want to pick in the mid first round either. I can't believe it. They wanted one that was top 15. A pick that was 20th overall wouldn't have been good enough. Surely Montreal couldn't have paired up maybe a third round pick, the 20th overall pick if we traded back 7 spots, and their third round pick. That just wouldn't have done it for Chicago.
Well, they could have done that. But see, that's not what you said. That's not what you said initially. Okay, I'm just saying now that's a whole nother story. Lou Lamoriello should have gotten more, but he was going to have to give up the 13th pick. That was going to happen.
You trade back from the 13th overall pick and you trade it to the number 20. You move back. You acquire more picks as the New York Islanders. You trade away the 20th overall selection, so you're not the one overpaying again, as always. Okay, and Montreal has to give up more in order to get the guy Kirby Dach they want.
But if Chicago wanted the 13 pick, you were going to have to give up the 13 pick. I'm not saying they could have gotten more. That's a whole nother story. They could have gotten
Chicago
more.
wanted a top 15 pick.
Right.
20 and then pair it up with something.
No, they wanted a top 15 pick.
On top.
No, top 15. They didn't want 20 and something else. They wanted 15. They wanted something in the top 15. That's what they wanted.
My job as a general manager is not to kiss ass Chicago. If you want to get to the top 15, use maybe the third round pick we gave you to trade up. That's what you're going to have to do. My job is not to do all the work for other general managers. My job is to make sure I don't overpay like our team always does, Grump. Can you name me one trade? Name me one fucking trade where Lou Lamoriello hasn't overpaid for.
But doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is another situation where he overpaid by a hand and a fist.
That's fine. That's on Lou Lamoriello. But here's the thing: to make that deal, it's a 3-team deal. Every team has to be 14 deal.
Make a Chicago, then trade up to pick 15. Use the 20th.
Why Chicago trade up to 15? They had the guy that Montreal wanted. Montreal had wanted Kirby Dach. To get him, they needed a pick inside the top 15. That's what the deal was. They traded with the Islanders.
A 4-person deal to where they trade the pick. Here you go, Chicago. You can make it a 4-person deal.
No, that's not the way it works.
Who's got the 15th overall pick with the 20th overall selection? That's not how it works.
You're delusional.
Teams never trade for a pick.
How many 4-team trades are there? There's never 4-team trades.
Teams never trade for a pick and use that pick then to trade up. That never happens.
There's
never been in the history of any draft where a team has traded for a pick back into the first round and then paired that pick up with another pick to move higher on the draft. That's never happened before.
No, this is what happens. Montreal wanted Kirby Dach. They said, what's the price for Kirby Dach? It has to be a pick in the top 15 and something in the third round, and your third round pick. That's what they said the price was. So what did Montreal have to do? They had to get a pick in the top 15. They went to the Islanders. Okay. Lamoriello didn't get enough. You can definitely argue that. But the price for Kirby Dach was a first inside the top 15 and their third round pick. That was the price. If Montreal wanted him, that's what they had to give up. So they had to make a deal with the Islanders to get the pick inside the top 15.
It is about negotiation. That's all this is about. Every time our general manager negotiates, we lose. Have you ever noticed that? And here you are supporting that. Oh, no, it's just what needed to be done to get the deal done.
I'm saying if I said you could say absolutely that Lamoriello didn't get enough. Maybe you should have got their first and their second, or a second and something else and the fourth. Maybe you could, and the player. Maybe you could have said that. But that's on Lamoriello. That's on Lamoriello.
Okay.
It's not where Chicago should have to go out and make a deal. They had the player they wanted. You see, this is what I want.
Hold on. They had the player that, well, damn, I'm shocked that the player they wanted was just worth a third round pick in 2019, and now it's worth the 13th overall selection in this year's draft. Man, oh man, the player they wanted must have really not been the player they wanted all that much, Grump.
That's what they said to Montreal.
When you're willing to listen on giving up on a 21-year-old Kirby Dach, that means in all likelihood, you're not as attached as you come out. So you got to be able to negotiate and play a little bit of hardball. I just think
they did, and they won. They did, and they
won because our guy fucking lost.
Well, you could say that, but it had nothing to do with Chicago.
Or Andrew never wins trades.
You're trying to make it sound like Chicago should have done something different, or Montreal should have done something. No,
that's correct.
They did exactly what they wanted to, and they used the Islanders as the conduit to make that deal happen. That's all that happened. And Lou Lamoriello didn't get enough.
If our general manager played hardball a little more, we would not have been taken advantage of.
You're right. You would have got stuck with the 13th pick.
Lost that trade because we gave up too much value for a defensive defenseman. I think very easily you could have traded back and made that move still work.
No, it never would have worked. It never would have worked. There's no way we could trade back and make that work because Chicago wanted this. Montreal had to make the deal work, not the Islanders. The Islanders were the conduit to make that deal happen. The Islanders had nothing to do with the deal.
Let's say you added another team in there that was at pick number 15, hypothetically. And you had to make all the pieces go. We just made one more selection. Instead of the Islanders move back to pick 20, they gave up a 20th overall selection. And
again, I don't even understand what you're even talking about.
Listen, here we go. Gonna have to listen here, Grumpy. Put the listen ears on.
There's no 4-team deals in the NHL.
Oh, okay. We can't make a 4 deal. Well, can't
When
make
was the last time there was a 4-team deal in the NHL?
Okay, I'll pull it up right after I'm done with
Go
my
ahead.
Grump.
The answer is never.
You're trying to tell me, never been a 4-person deal.
Never a 4-team deal. 4 teams in a damn deal. Doesn't happen. These things happen on the freaking draft floor. The Islanders were going to trade for JT Miller with Vancouver, and then they stopped it and went to Montreal. That's what happened.
If someone pulls that up, because I want to get through my analogy, someone pulled up if there's ever been. If there's not, I'll say there's never has been, Grump, and people need to be more creative. 4-team deals happen all the time across all
the time.
All the time, Grump. I think they happen every day.
Okay.
But you're trying to tell me you couldn't say, well, here you go. We're adding another.
Why would they need the Islanders?
Hold on. The Islanders giving up their 20th. Instead of Montreal giving up their 4th, Montreal instead is going to have to give up their 3rd and a pick later on in order to get Chicago to move from that 20th, the Islanders' 20th overall pick, to move into that 15th overall spot. So Chicago.
Why would you even need the Islanders? Why do you need the Islanders in that scenario? You don't need the Islanders. The team that traded that pick, that made that deal work, was the conduit to make the trade work.
Maybe wanted additional draft capital.
Oh, stop. No way.
Stop. Maybe the other team doesn't want Alexander Romanov. You ever think of that one? You get that maybe that team wants a trade back. You're going to overpay in the trade back. The overpay is always us. We are the team that's always freaking overpaying. I don't know how.
We were the conduit. We were the conduit to that deal. The deal had nothing to do with Romanov. It was Doc for the draft pick, the 15 and the pick in the 3rd. That's what the trade was. Montreal had to get inside the top 15 to make that trade work for Chicago. Period. The Islanders were just a conduit as a team who gave up the 13 overall pick. That's all they were.
Every single time we make a trade, we are always overpaying and getting underpaid back in return.
That's a whole nother story.
It would be nice just once to say, oh, guys, I think we're the clear winner of this. Mike, hold on. This doesn't add up. We got paid way too much for this. Or, we got him on a sweetheart trade. We didn't have to give up as much as we should have for this. This is a great deal. We are never the team that does that because our general manager does not know how to manage. He does not have any asset management skills. That is an issue.
That's a whole nother story. I agree with that. But to say we were going to go down to 20, everybody else is going to move up. No, that's not the way that trade works. It never doesn't work like that. But here's the thing. You can absolutely say that we don't get enough for the assets we trade and we overpay for assets. Absolutely, you can say that. The only thing you could have done better is gotten more out of Montreal to be that conduit to make that deal happen. That's the only thing you could have done.
Whatever you wanted, we needed more back in return. Simple.
That's a whole nother story. I agree.
Simple as that. So
and then if they went to somebody else,
if people give the trade an A, you're seeing some of these Glad-Hander sites.
I'm not giving it an
A+, fantastic trade. Here's the thing: does it fill a hole that we had on this team? Yes, it does. A left-handed defenseman now. You've got
potentially.
Does it fill? In all likelihood, yes, it does fill the need we have. Right? There's no doubt about it. Does it give us cost certainty? Yes, it does. It also does that. Right? So those are two checks. We just got underpaid. We got underpaid back in return for what we had to give up. I don't know.
Now, if he turns out to be, I don't know, a rock solid defenseman back there, name whoever. If he turns out to be a Sergachev type on the back end, I think you say that's a good deal.
Okay, Sergachev brings offensive ability.
Oh, okay. What I'm saying is the type of player who's going to give you top 4 minutes, going to be a rock solid duo out there, him and Dobson. I think then, I'm not saying right now, but if he turns out to be better than anticipated, then you could say, okay, that's a deal that works. I don't know if it will or not.
I think he's going to play the role. And I like to let's go through the thought process. I think Adam Pelech, if we're looking at as a defenseman, Adam Pelech's a more valuable defenseman than Alexander Romanov. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would think so. Sure.
At this
point in his career, definitely.
Do you think you see any teams that are, selected 13th or in a top 15 selection, a lottery pick? Do you see them? Would you ever see them saying, "Oh man, hey, I know it's the NHL Draft's around. We're looking to go ahead and get your 13th overall pick. We'll give you Adam Pelech." Adam Pelech, mind you, better player than Alexander Romanov. Would you see that? Would you think you'd see a scenario like that often?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But remember, it would be like us trading to get some center. Okay, we're going to have to sacrifice Adam Pelech. The Islanders are just 1 year removed from going to the East Conference Finals, right? 2 years in a row. So, Lamoriello's thinking, gosh, if we get this piece, we're right back in that Eastern Conference Final. I don't believe that, but maybe he does. Or maybe the other GM says, yeah, you know what? We were real close last year. We had the 13th pick. Adam Pelech gives us a rock-solid defenseman back there. We're definitely willing to move that to add that piece to our team. It's a missing piece of our team. I absolutely could see that happening. Absolutely.
I don't think you see too many teams giving up lottery picks for a defensive defenseman. Mind you, I think Adam Pelech I think Alexander Romanov could aspire to be a guy in the defensive world as a guy as defensively sound as Adam Pelech. Defensive defensemen usually don't make all-star games, and you've got a defensive defenseman on our team who makes an all-star game. I think, right, as a defensive defenseman, I put him as a top 5, top 10 defensive defenseman in the league.
Okay, great. Yeah.
I don't think Alexander Romanov is at that quality, and you don't
Not
even
at
know if
22.
he has a chance to reach a quality like that.
Well, he's okay.
Very
He's 20.
lofty goals to say I want to be a top 5 defensive defenseman in the NHL.
He's 22, and he's played 100 games in the NHL. He's not a finished product yet. He got much better playing for Martin St. Louis at the end of the year. Absolutely.
Yeah, he struggled. He struggled big time without Marty St. Louis. A lot of the team played better with Marty St. Louis.
Well, there you go.
Could you just chalk that up to inconsistency of play of a young man? That also could be the case too.
I don't know. When a new coach comes in, he plays much better. That's not inconsistency. That means that whoever
sometimes get a dead count bounce. Happens all the time in sports. You get a new coach, a new change of a voice. You see the team pick up a little bit because it resonates. The voice resonates a little more with them.
But everything you're hearing is he didn't go backwards when he was with Marty St. Louis. As soon as he got there, his game took off. That tells me that whoever was coaching that group earlier wasn't doing the job, wasn't getting through to the defenseman. The whole team played better, right?
Exactly. Cole Caulfield. So everybody took a big jump because, again, it could have just been bad environment there with the head coach that needed to go. Marty St. Louis brought something different to the table, and it all resonated with them all well. So,
there you go.
I'm not saying I'm expecting him to perform poorly. I think this is a guy who's going to be as advertised. He's going to be a guy who's a defensive defenseman, moves the puck well, good skater, who's got your prototypical top 4 type.
Really good skater. That's what we needed. That's what we needed to solidify our defense. I'm not saying, again, before you go off another rant, I'm not saying that we couldn't have gotten more. That's on Lamoriello. But this is the type of player we needed.
The biggest issue, and you and I and Phil talked about this yesterday, and we disagree. The biggest issue I believe this team has is not enough offensive talent from the forward group. I think that's been a big issue. And I think this year more than ever is the biggest issue this team had. People said, well, no, our defense, look at how many chances we gave up. That's correct. Our defense was miserable last year, was a Daniel Chara and Andy Green strapped to it. But when you have a top 5 goalie in the NHL, he covers up and spackles up the mistakes that the defense makes. We still were the 7th best team in goals allowed last year with a miserable defense. If you even marginally improved your defense, you were going right back to being top 5 in goals against. The issue is, and always has been, we are bottom 10 every freaking year in scoring. We do not score enough goals. That is the issue we have. Does Alexander Romanov bring us more goals? Maybe you could say it allows Noah Dobson to be more offensively creative. That's going to spur us an extra 20 goals. That is the only way I could say maybe it would.
That's my point.
The biggest need for us is offensive creativity and offensive power. We don't have that.
I understand, but this team, the way it's currently built, has most of our forwards are over 30. They're not going to be able to play an offensive game. That's not their style. So you're going to have to generate offense in other ways. You're going to have to be rock solid on defense like we were the 2 previous years to last. I mean, those are just facts. Until you transition away from, this old slog it up the ice type offense that we have and grind every goal out, that's just the way it's going to be. You're going to have to play good defense. Right now, our defense is in good shape. If Romanov turns out as advertised, again, big if. But if he does, let's say you brought in Hedman to play with Dobson, right? Oh, you know what? Our defense, I'm just throwing it out there to say the defense is set. Now everything we're going for is forward group, right? I mean, I think that's fair. Your defense is super set. I'm not comparing this kid to Hedman, but I'm saying that's the way they're looking at it. Perhaps this kid solves their defensive issues, right? So now you can just focus on offense.
Well, let's talk about that, because we talked about what are the next steps. And I said, once we made this move, this is the move for the offseason. We're not doing anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the move. Let's talk a little bit about what's happened before unrestricted free agency as of right now. We didn't make any trades on day 2 to get rid of contracts that, possibly contracts that maybe take up a little bit of space for players and forwards that don't necessarily produce, right? You see Josh Bailey still on the team. You see guys that are underproducers are still on the team, grumpy old man. And I don't think they're going to be moved. And that is the biggest issue. I think that Lou Lamoriello believes that the offense, just give it another try, plug and chug away. We're going to be back at it. We're going to be better than ever. We're going to perform just like we were in years past. And I think it's a gross misstep on that side. I really do.
I agree. I absolutely agree. We need to make changes on offense. But before you can add an offensive player, you have to move some out.
They are not planning on moving any out.
Well, then you will not get an offensive player. You will not sign one. You will not trade for one. Those are just facts.
Our general manager prioritized the biggest need for us was just adding a defensive defenseman who can move the puck through transition, and everything else not as important. I think it's prioritizing the wrong needs.
It was the biggest need for the team.
We have a top 5 goalie in the NHL. Let your top 5 goalie earn his freaking worth. I don't want a guy who's a top 5 goalie where he says, "Oh yeah, man, your defense is doing great. You don't have to worry about it."
We couldn't even get out of our defensive zone last year.
We couldn't get out of our defensive zone, newsflash, because we had 2 anchors that couldn't skate.
Now we don't.
You could have found anybody who skated better than Daniel Chara. Grump, you just slap skates on your ass out there, and you've been like Big Z, Grump.
Okay, but now we don't. Now we have guys all the guys can move well enough, right? If Salo's going to be your left-handed defenseman on the third pairing, you have all your defensemen can move well enough. Okay, that won't be an issue. That should help. That should help the offense. Here's the thing: do we have the right offensive pieces? I don't believe so.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Right? People have been speculating, and it's funny. You hear from certain fly-by-night spots to where they say, "Oh no, from what I've heard now, Lou Lamoriello is hard at work trying to trade away Varlamov after the draft for whatever reason," which makes no sense to me.
And Bailey.
And he's trying to trade away Josh Bailey. Well, Kevin Kurtz comes out there and says, and again, I'm willing to trust Kevin Kurtz more than I am the fly-by-night sites, to be quite honest with you. He says, "I know there's a lot of speculation about this, but my understanding at this moment is that Josh Bailey is not being shopped, nor is he even thought to be available. As always, these things can change and quickly, but that's where we are right now."
I believe that. Because if you're going to move anybody, it's pre-draft or during the draft. It's not after.
Phil and I were talking about this, and I said, no other trades were made by the Islanders to go ahead and shore up the forward group. Not a single one during the draft. You're more than likely to do it during the draft than after the draft. We just did a little tiny comparison. Last year, after the NHL draft and before unrestricted free agency, 7 trades were made. 7. There've already been trades that have been made across the league. It's not like there's a plethora of trades that happened this week and a half before unrestricted free agency. Maybe one a day, a little less than one a day. I just do not expect the Islanders to say, "Oh, terrific. Now we can start going ahead and offloading. Now we can start freeing up that cap space we need." Phil and I, and you, Grumpy, I remember talked about they're going to have about $4 million of cap space. So it makes sense that we would trade away maybe a lesser talented forward, and we'd be able to go after a Johnny Gaudreau. We'd be able to go after somebody in a best case scenario. I told Phil, and I told you this last show, I firmly believe what's going to happen is Lou Lamoriello is going to pull a Lou special. Look at Lou's history in order to use that as a barometer as to what will happen in the future. Lou Lamoriello loves to overpay for veterans. I firmly believe Lou Lamoriello is going to use this hypothetical $4 million. He's not going to trade anybody off the forward group to free up cap space to make it to where we can have a valiant effort after a guy like Johnny Gaudreau. He is going to sign back a Nick Leddy or sign back back a defenseman who's going to be a bottom pairing defenseman for us, and he will overpay them. And that's where your $4 million of space is going to go.
Okay.
Not to improve the forward group, but to add another defenseman.
I don't even know where we have over 12 million in cap space.
We went through the scenario of signing back Dops and how much that was going to take. We did the scenario of what everybody would have to sign back and what the cap space would be. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I don't think it would. Again, I don't think it was necessarily 4 million left. I mean, it doesn't matter. But here's the thing: he knows that you have to improve the forward group. He knows that. He knows that. He's not going to sign Nick Leddy at $5 million per to play on the third pairing. That is not going to happen. Okay. Mark it down. That will not happen. I guarantee you that will not happen.
I hope you're right.
Will not happen.
I hope you're right.
I mean, there's no freaking way. He needs to improve the forward group. I think what you're going to wind up seeing, we're going to make an attempt to sign one forward, a Burakovsky, somebody of that, not a top line guy, but somebody in the next tier. That's going to be our big move.
That is the top tier that's out there. Well, let's talk about the tiers that are out there right now, Grump, because you're talking about Burakovsky, that next tier. Well, let's talk a little bit about the guys who are in the tier ahead, right? Your guys like your Philip Forsberg, your guys like your Kevin Fiala's, your guys like your Alex Brinkat.
Okay.
What, Grump? What?
Fiala wasn't even a free agent. He's gone.
Guys that were moved in were pending to be moved this offseason. How about that, Grump? Does that make it happy?
But that's not a free agency.
For guys that were going to be unrestricted free agents, right? Philip Forsberg was penciled in to probably be an unrestricted free agent. Signed back this morning on an 8-year, $70 million deal with the Nashville Predators.
That's the only free agent off the board. That's the only free agent off the board.
That's correct. Okay. Alex Brinkat was always, hey, we're going to trade him during this time period, right? He was a guy who was a winger who was available via trade, not via free agency, but was available via trade. You could have made a move after a guy like that.
No chance. No freaking chance. They got a top 10 pick for him. We didn't have that number 7 pick overall.
What else did they get on top of that?
A third and another pick and a fifth and another pick next year. They want to.
The 7th overall pick and a third rounder.
Yeah, and another pick next year and a second rounder next year.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't have a top 10 pick. Chicago was looking. They're doing a total makeover. They're not looking for picks. They got 13. That was part 2. But for the better player, they wanted to pick inside the top 10, and they got it.
Okay. So you could have tried to make a move after a guy like that. He was available to be traded for. Kevin Fiala is another guy, right? The Los Angeles Kings gave up the 18th overall pick and a defensive prospect for a guy like Kevin Fiala and signed him on a big term deal, right? He was a guy that's available. And if we were looking down the line of, guys who were available this offseason, either A, via trade, or B, via unrestricted free agency, some of the top tier guys are off the board. I'd say the top tier now only lies to Johnny Gaudreau. Everybody else is a step below.
And Claude Giroux.
You put Claude Giroux on the same level as Johnny Gaudreau at this stage in his career? I don't.
I'm saying for top tier free agents, it's Gaudreau and Giroux. Those are the 2 top tier free agents.
Yeah.
He's still a point of game guy
now because it was originally Forsberg and Gaudreau. It was Gaudreau and Forsberg. Giroux was underneath. But now since Forsberg gone, and this is what people like to do, they like to just migrate somebody up to the missing and void spot. I think Gaudreau and Forsberg were the two top wingers that were free agents. And I think Giroux, who still is valuable, was underneath them.
Still a point of game guy. That's fine. But then Burakovsky's on the 3rd tier then, if you want to look at that. I think Giroux is definitely better than Burakovsky.
Okay.
I mean,
that's Burakovsky just being younger, having more time was something.
And he's not as productive as Giroux.
That's correct.
Yep. Yeah. So he's below him, in my opinion.
I'm just saying, right? I don't think a guy like Johnny Gaudreau is in the works. You're going to have to free up an awful lot of cap space in order to make that work. So no matter what, I think you're in a position to where you're looking at adding a 2nd or a 3rd tier forward to that group. And that is just plain and simple, not enough to improve the team. And Chris Botta puts it perfectly, right? Let's repeat. The only goal is not to simply be good. They already are good. The goal is to be a cup contender again. Today, they're not a contender. That's true.
Agreed.
Even with
Agreed.
the defensive ad, it wasn't enough to make us a cup contender. We had to add a legitimate forward to this team.
True.
A legitimate
At least one. I say
guy.
two. I say two, not one, two.
I was about to say, you could afford it to add a top line and a middle six forward, a guy who could range between the second and third line, depending on team, but you needed a top line forward. I just don't think that's going to be done. I don't think it's going to happen.
Again, until you move forwards off of the team, you cannot bring anybody in. You got 14 guys under freaking contract.
The issue is Lou Lamoriello believes that this forward group is good enough to succeed. People say, well, he was shopping for JT Miller. I will tell you is this. I read many reports. Some said, yes, general manager Alvin from the Vancouver Canucks lying through his teeth. He said, no, they were nowhere near close on trying to negotiate a deal with JT Miller. So maybe it was somebody else on the Vancouver Canucks team that they were talking about, but it was not around JT Miller. So
Elliot Friedman said that the hang up with JT Miller was
the contract.
Because Vancouver would not let anyone negotiate with JT Miller before a trade was made.
Correct.
And that would be enough to kill it for me. You're not giving up the 13 pick in the draft for a guy who's going to be there for 1 year and then bail. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But, of course, that would be the Islanders, right? Guy who's 29 years old. Let's give him an 8-year contract. I wouldn't have liked that. I would have lost my freaking mind over that, like I do every time they do shit like that. And here's the thing. He's infinitely better than every single player we signed to those long-term deals. Every offensive player we've signed to those long-term deals. He's infinitely better. And I still say no to that. But you might be right. Lou Lamoriello maybe thinks this forward group is good enough to win as is. It's not. He might think that, though. But until you cannot bring anyone in until you move somebody off because we have too many guys under contract that we have to pay. Way too many guys in that forward group.
I just fear it's all for naught if we don't address the gaping hole we have on forward or the gaping need we have to improve the forward group. And what's going to happen, and this is what you're going to see from the fan base, and what you're going to see from the media cartel, is they're going to start, as it gets closer, and this happens every year, as it gets closer and closer to preseason, and as we get closer and closer to start of the year, they're going to try to justify that, no, the biggest need was defense, and that was the only real need we had. Now that our defense is going to be able to get us with quicker transitions, we'll spend less time in the defensive zone, we're going to generate more scoring, and we're going to be back to a middle-of-the-road scoring team. And I'm just telling you, it's just not that plain and simple. That is what you're going to see happen as it kind of sinks in, that more and more time goes by and we don't address that gaping need. It's just going to get to more and more people trying to justify why it didn't need to be addressed to begin with. And that just shit drives me nuts. I could see all this unfolding on draft night as soon as we made that move.
I'm just going to tell you one thing. When you get on the grumpy old man bandwagon, like a lot of these people have done now, awful hard to get back off. Because when you're normally like little Pollyannas who believe everything the organization says, and you finally don't see it that way, and they don't make any moves, you think they're hopping back on the Islander bandwagon. That's not happening. The grumpy train is rolling through town.
The grumpy train.
Everyone's jumping on right now. You don't get off. We're riding it right to the end. Make a big move or get the hell out of the way.
Shit or get off the pot, as they say.
Exactly.
Oh man, I tell you. But let's do this, Grumpy. I'm going to read today's ad. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. We'll get through some comments. Yeah, I tell you. Today's podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on your favorite sports, you can fuel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet of up to $1,000, and if you don't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all major action of baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN and make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes and the details for additional down below.
Yay! Good job, TJ.
Well, Grumpy, I just need you always to stall for like 5 seconds as I
okay.
means to get back to you.
No problem. Good job, TJ. Fantastic ad read.
No.
Let's jump into the comments. How about that? Woo!
What's that, Grump?
Let's jump into the comments. Woo!
Oh, good gracious.
We didn't get to talk a lot to the people because you were going insane
on Thursday. Online. So people tell us, hey, we love the trade. I love giving up the 13th overall pick. Or no, I didn't like doing that. I thought maybe we gave up too much. Cameron with the cam says here, it's 8:10. Come on, Grumpy. Get off the toilet already. Laugh massive. Yeah, Grumpy. Get on time, Grump. Be here on time. John Smith said, I've actually warmed up to the Romanoff trade, but word is Bailey is not being shopped. This I cannot deal with. Under no circumstances can he be on the roster opening day.
I think the bigger issue is we need to move. We need to get a better forwards on this team, which means you have to move some guys out, period. I still think there's a trade to be made with Arizona.
We over-prioritized the defensive hole. We thought that we needed to seriously. We have a top 10. We have a top 5 goalie, top 10 no matter what. I think he's top 5. But when you have a no doubt top 10 goalie in the NHL, your defense, if you have 4 really strong defensive pieces. You don't need to say I need the best defense in the world when I've got a top tier goalie. Your goalie is going to bail out defensive mistakes. You know what you can never bail out of? The inability to score. You will never, when you're playing good teams, you're never going to be bailed out if you don't have the ability to score.
We understand. You've said it 8 times today. We got it. To me, the biggest need was defense first to solidify the back group. I've said it all off season. And then you had to improve the offense as well. But defense was first, then we go full in on offense.
Okay. We're not doing anything on offense because we said only defense.
That's a whole nother can of bowl of wax.
Okay. Chris said, good old Josh Bailey is back crying. Yeah.
At least here's the thing. Those are easy shows for me when he sucks, which is like every night. So I just get to bury Josh Bailey for another year. Or probably 2. And then whatever his contract extension is going to be.
Veritas Victor said, I don't know what got into TJ the other night. I'm liking the move for Romanoff. I don't dislike the player. I dislike the price we had to give up to get him. Just like with Jean-Gabriel Pageau, I don't dislike the player. I dislike the price we had to give up to get him.
I felt the same way. That's fine. You can say that. But if he turns out to be the piece that they think he's going to be and we hope he's going to be, you won't even care about the 13th overall pick.
Oh, that's just wrong.
Okay.
Jean-Gabriel Pageau was everything we thought and he was going to be. I still thought a first and a second's way too much to give up for him.
Well, we only give a first and we got a 4th. We got the George kid coming back also.
What?
We got the George kid and Romanoff.
Isaiah George. Okay.
Yeah.
Still gave up too much. Oh shit, Bailey has to go. And then Cameron with the cam says, here we go. Emmanuel R says, good evening, gents. Thank you for the entertaining show on Thursday. TJ, have you finally come around to appreciating the trade? No, absolutely not. I like the player. I don't like what we gave up. That's the last time I'll say that tonight.
Really?
Cameron with the cam. Yes. Drew L said, holy crap, this might be a record for how late/early than normal TJ is. Just wanted to say hi to both you and Grumpy, though. Well, thanks, Drew. We appreciate it. Andrew L says, let's go, boys. Bailey is back and better than ever.
Bailey blows. He sucks more than ever.
Freaking Josh Bailey.
He's not getting better. He'll never get better.
It's only on the downhill slope.
He's in his 30s now. He ain't getting better.
He's only on a downhill slope.
He's been shit his whole career. Now he's not even like the big shit that comes out first. He's like the little shit squawks at the end. That's all he is. He's the hemorrhoid that lays in the toilet after you're done shitting. That's Josh Bailey. He's a hemorrhoid. A bloody vein.
Never had hemorrhoids, and I don't know how they work, but I don't want to hear about your fucking bowel movement.
I didn't say me.
Hemorrhoids.
I didn't say me, but I know what hemorrhoids are. And let me tell you something. I'm going to bet you're going to find out.
I don't have hemorrhoids, never will.
Okay.
And then Brandon Fry says here, "What's up, guys? I'm loving the trade for Romanoff."
I also believe it was a bit of an overpay, but I understand the move, and if it works out, I have no problem with it.
Doug R says Romanoff with Dobson is going to be a very good pair.
I hope so too.
Tony Queso says, "Guys, I think we really need to focus on our first game of the season. It's a must win." That's what I'm talking about, Tony Queso. Bring it back. Every game's a must win.
What's with the no picture there?
Yeah, Tony Queso, what happened in your picture? I can't see it. What's going on here? It's not giving me the ability to pull it up. Oh, well. Andrew L said, "Seeing TJ's reaction to the trade kind of made me think better of it than I did initially." Okay. Because I didn't like it. You did, Andrew. Well, fair enough,
I mean,
Andrew.
Yeah, that's fine. I put down the water jug.
What I mean, and didn't say anything, Grump.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not, I don't want to go back.
I wouldn't have gone for a drink if you started pretending like you were going to talk and then didn't.
I don't need to hear you spout again about it anymore. And here's the thing. Here's the thing, everyone. It's not like
talking again.
It's not like the only time I hear about it is when we're on the show. Every time I talk to TJ off the air, I hear about it. So I'm just kind of past all.
We haven't talked off the air since the show. I know. Really? Okay. I haven't. I slept till like 2 p.m. today.
Oh.
So I know I wasn't talking to you like that. The Wicked 50 Cal says, "What's going on, guys? Most of the picks I don't like. I'm still not a fan of the Romanoff trade for the 13th overall pick. Most of the picks I didn't like outside of Adelius and George."
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to give us a grade, I'd probably give us maybe a C+, maybe. I mean, for the draft itself, C+. Nobody to me stood out like, oh man, that guy's going to be has a potential to be a stud.
I thought Quinn Filling was a reach. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad spot. I'm not saying, it's a bad selection. He's not going to pan out.
He was projected to go in that range, though. You just didn't want to play. You just wanted a different player. I understand. I mean,
Emmanuel R says here, Kevin Kurtz tweeted, "Bailey isn't being shopped. If that's true, Bavillier is also staying. And who goes?"
Maybe Anders Lee. Maybe they move Anders Lee. I just do have a feeling it's going to be every year we do the same thing. And this year, yes. I almost fell for the banana in the tailpipe. But as we got closer to the draft, I'm like, nope, we're not going to do anything. I just have a feeling that we're just not going to do anything.
Very minimal and inconsequential moves.
Yeah.
Very, very limited. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Nick D says here, TJ, the curve. How are you guys doing tonight? So now things are settled. What do you think of what do you think about Romanoff now? I'm sure you already discussed it by the time you get to this comment. We for certain did. Thanks for asking, though, Nick. We appreciate it. Doug R said, we need players now, not to wait a few years, a 13th overall pick to come around. Could have got more for that pick. That's as simple as it is. If you were always hell-bent on trading it, could have done more to maximize what you got. The Wicked 50 Cal says, even with Isaiah George, oh, shit, I didn't even see this comment. Vladimir Grandinin has much more offensive upside with more skating. Extremely quick, very small. He's not a big guy. He's a guy from, I think he played in the MHL underneath the KHL this last year. He's a guy I wanted them to target to. I did not even see this comment before the Wicked 50 Cal, but you and I were thinking alike, Wicked 50 Cal. I like that. Rich A says, what's happening, boys? The Wicked 50 Cal also saying here, for Romanoff, I would either have traded the 13th overall pick for Romanoff and asked Seattle for either the 26th overall pick or Montreal an early second round pick for Romanoff. Or I would have traded down from the 13th overall pick. Yep, you and I agree. Drew L says here, TJ, speaking of WWE wrestling, you should make Grumpy's theme song Shawn Michaels' theme song.
He's a sexy boy. He's a boy toy.
Can we get you in the studio to sing that one and I can add that as a little clip on here? He's a sexy boy. Sexy boy. That was the exact same voice you just used.
Sherry Martel actually did that, she did those things. He had a good theme song. He did.
Oh man. The Wicked
it's tough for a man who's like in his 50s to use that song now, but when he was, back in the day.
The Wicked Cal said, and then traded for Romanoff while keeping those assets from the trade down. Yep, absolutely. Brett W says, let me tell you something, TJ. I'm so far ahead of the curve because I've been saying my prayers and taking my vitamins. Brother, grumpy old man.
That's right, brother.
Oh, was that something Hulk did? No.
Yeah. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins. That's it.
I didn't know that. Fair enough. Doug R says Lou has not re-signed Char or Green. That's a big positive if they stay away.
I think they're both gone. No way either one of them comes back. That's the biggest thing. That's you don't know the reason I really love this move. No way Zdeno Chara and Andy Green come back.
Because our general manager is so blithering. He's such a blithering idiot and incompetent at this stage that, we don't have to worry. Now that he's signed, now that he's traded for Romanoff, we don't have to worry about him bringing back Zdeno Chara and Andy Green. That's happy.
When the future Dennis Potvin starts taking off with Noah Dobson last year, you're going to be singing a different tune.
Next year, not last year.
This year coming up.
Freedom Fun Adventure says Romanoff was an excellent trade acquisition. Great skater, over 225 hits. Not going to allow teams to skate freely into or around the zone. Check out his numbers in Russia. He has I love when I say that. Check out his numbers in the MHL underneath the KHL level. Check out what he did with CSKA Moscow, the best team in all of Russia. I mean,
they're in the KHL.
He didn't always play for CSKA Moscow.
Why do you keep on putting down Dennis Potvin Jr.? That's what I want to know.
I heard he's Bobby Orr, actually, Grump. Don't sell him short like that. This is Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr was an excellent acquisition. Great skater, over 225 hits. Not going to allow those people to skate freely through zone. And check out his hit.
He improves our defense.
I didn't know Bobby Orr played in Russia, though, Grump. That's crazy. Brian B says here, hi, fellas. What's up, Brian?
My brother from another mother.
Please tell me you saw how the Mets won today. I didn't.
We did not, but they won 5-4.
Brett W says, hey, Grumpy, did you hear both James Kahn and is that Kane with 2 A's? James Kane. I just want to make sure I'm not pronouncing it and mispronouncing it. And Tony Sirico, Paulie Walnuts passed away.
Hold on. What's the first guy's name?
James Kane.
No, it's not James Kane.
It's got 2 A's. I've never seen a name that's Caan.
James Kahn. He played Sonny in The Godfather.
I know I made a criminal offense, Grumpy. He
was Brian Piccolo in Brian's song.
Oh, he was in Brian's song, huh? He's the one that got cancer, I assume.
Yes,
he was Brian. Okay, fair enough.
James Kane again. I don't.
Doug R says my worry is Sorokin getting back to the USA.
He'll be back.
I'm not worried about that.
I'm not worried about that.
That's one of the low on the worry points for me. E-Train Man says here, Lou just signed his favorite player to a long-term deal. Stan Pat. Yes, he does. He does sign Stan Pat always to these long-term deals over the offseason and at the deadlines. Stan Pat, baby.
I like that. That's good.
I laughed my ass off when I saw this earlier on, like at the beginning of the show.
Host of the day so far. Sorry.
E-Train Man, good one. Ariel C says, are you guys excited to watch the ceremonial game for Josh Bailey's 1000th game? I am. We're going to have to do a live stream, Grumpy, and say, thank you, Josh Bailey, for all the good you've brought to this team, all the many successes you've brought to the island.
God. No comment.
They also signed Aho back. Yes, the Islanders did make a few signings, Grumpy. They brought back some of the already existing players. Did you happen to see that, Grump?
I did see that. You know how I know I saw that? I sent it to you in a text. Yes.
Grumpy, stick it where the sun don't shine.
I did see it.
Okay, I'm pulling them up here. Give me a sec. I was shocked actually Otto Koivula signed back. I thought he was going to go play overseas. I thought he was just going to say, screw it, I'm going back home. I really did. He has no chance, no future with us, no chance here in the NHL. I just would have said go back home, play.
Maybe he likes to live in Connecticut. A lot of people do.
I've heard Bridgeport's a really nice place to live.
Yeah.
That area.
In Hutton, 3 years.
I did hear also Robin Salo talk about how fantastic of an area it was to live last year.
I think Robin Salo is going to make the big team. I just do. I think
so.
And he should. He should be playing that bottom pair with Scott Mayfield. I think that's really good for him. It'll accelerate his growth to play in Mayfield's last year here. I like that scenario. I'm fine with the defense.
Right now. Unrestricted free agent that's going to be $4 million or $5 million cap hit to that spot.
No.
Okay. I hope I'm wrong. But yes, Andy Adderoff, Grump. I can never pronounce that damn last name. Yeah, Andy A on a 2-year extension. Played well last year in the limited time we saw him. Robin Salo, it's a no-brainer. Sebastian Aho, some people are upset about us re-signing him for a 2-year contract.
Not me.
Yeah, I was about to say Jeff Kubiak, not really doing much. Otto Koivu, not really doing much. Grant Hutton, I'm happy about the signing back of 3 years, and Kevin Appleby, 2-year contract. Nobody of significant stature or circumstance besides maybe Robin Salo. He might have a chance to make the team and be like an NHLer, but that's pretty much it on that list.
Right. Everybody else, they're just, filler pieces, for injuries and to play down in the A. I have no problem with that at all. I'm sure you're not breaking the bank on any of those guys. So congrats.
Yeah.
Boy, it's funny how you listen to some of your little buddies earlier in the season. Robin Salo, oh, he's the guy, right? First it was, who was the other guy? Oh, it was Bolduc was the guy. They're all the guys. And all of a sudden they don't play. It's like, out of sight, out of mind. Now, I think Robin Salo can play, certainly on the bottom pairing. I'm interested to see Samuel Bolduc next year to see if he can maybe take a step up. I didn't get to see him in the playoff games, but I would have liked to see him play live.
Tyler C. said stacking up on defense, getting rid of Mitchell Van Sample, Parker Weatherspoon, Thomas Hickey, etc.
100% agree there. Those guys have no future with us.
Jack W. saying I was really impressed with Salo last year. Jack W.
I wasn't super impressed
UK
with him.
Grump from the UK. Jack W.
Oh, hello. I was not super impressed with Robin Salo. I thought he was okay. I thought he needed more time. When I saw him play in the playoffs, I thought he was probably the best defenseman, but I didn't think he didn't stand out. But you could tell, okay, there's something to work with there.
Brett W. says, wouldn't be surprised if Hickey retires. Yeah, he's had injury issues, and I wouldn't be shocked if he retires also.
He's been playing like he's been retired for years.
There it is. Tyler C. said 100%. We need those draft picks, and we'll be able to provide there for the future. Brett W. also says here, TJ, maybe the F double minus was your knowledge of pop culture.
Oh, wham! Wham!
Damn.
Jimmy Kane.
Damn.
James Kane.
What's up, Scott L? How are you? The Wicked 50 Cal says the forward picks were especially suspect. The Finley pick was okay, but I usually don't like drafting overagers, nor do I. I didn't mind the Maggio pick, and I mean,
Maggio.
Dalen. Was that Grump?
Maggio.
I like Maggio.
That's not the name, though. You can like whatever you want. That's not the kid's name. Maggio. You want to say Ralph Macchio. I know you do. It's Maggio.
Maggio. Maybe he's related to Ralph Macchio, Grump.
Different spelling. Yeah, probably not. Different area of the country. Yeah, maybe not.
Oh, what's wrong, Grumpy? You don't like me calling it like that?
You're just a screw up. Just go to the next comment.
Okay, give me a sec. I'm trying to get something pulled up. Okay. I've never heard of F double minus.
Thank you. There was no F double minus. It was the F minus was Kyle Palmieri.
I swear we said F double minus.
No.
I'll take it as wrong. I'll eat the L. Don't you worry. Drew Ellis said, I'll give Lou credit where credit is due. He at least drafted players who have tremendous potential.
I thought he drafted guys who that look like the Islanders are trying to transition away from the style they've been playing for a number of years.
Scott L says, I like the deal for Romanov, but at least another first-round pick Lou gives away. Handing first-round picks out like candy. That's the frustrating part.
True.
The only thing I will say that's different about this first-round pick losing or trading away this first-round pick than others, given it was a higher pick, at least we did get a younger player back in return. That is the only glimmer of hope on that side. Drew,
and I'll say one other thing, just one quick thing on that. If he turns out to be everything is advertised, you're not even going to care about that pick.
Gotcha. We're gonna go rapid fire through a lot of comments, Grump.
Yeah, I like how anytime
I go to, you know what? I'm not saying the same things I've said over and over. You said that 3 or 4 times today, Grump. You have. Come on. I understand.
Every time I want to go on a comment, it's like, oh, we're gonna do rapid fire, and then you'll go off on some diatribe for the very next comment. You either do rapid fire or you don't.
Jarrell says, oh yeah, TJ, I know maybe it's nothing to worry about now, but I saw that Kirill Kaprizov was in Russia and was denied entry back in the US.
That's different though, because
I think he dodged a draft or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I can't tell. I'm not too up to date on all the specifics on it. And here's the other thing. Start messing around with teams' money and their assets. They'll find a way to get that player over, or they're going to try to do anything they can to find a way to get that player over there. They'll smuggle them over however they could.
Here's my thing. Don't go back to Russia.
Tony Queso says maybe we picked him up so Sorokin doesn't feel bad when Varlamov gets traded. Or maybe we just picked him up to keep Sorokin happy. Maybe. I kind of do like
He did play with Sorokin. He did play with Sorokin, though.
Yep.
And they were great defensively. He never gave up any goals. They're probably never even going to get scored on.
I think the Islanders giving up 0 goals next year. Book it down.
Go.
What's the over-under for 0 goals on the year?
You'll be saying a little bit different about that trade then, won't you?
Well, Bobby Orr Jr. over there will keep us intact. Tyler C said he's a puck moving defenseman. If you're scoring 40 plus points, you're an offensive defenseman, says John A. Brandon Fry says Cal Odelius is absolutely a defensive defenseman. LOL.
Thank you.
Guy with good transition. The guy could skate, good puck handling skills. Scott L says if Lou trades away a first-round pick, he better be getting a more than capable NHL player in return. No, I'm not saying it was, it has to be McDavid, but I feel like they could have gotten to Brincat.
No.
If we didn't want them, you're trying to tell me you couldn't have given up the 13th overall pick, a third rounder this year, and a second round next year?
No, they wanted a top 10 pick for him. Matter of fact, they didn't get enough for the Brincat. They didn't get enough for him. That was an underwhelming offer for them. And they got more than the Islanders could have offered. Unless you gave up this year's first, next year's first, and a second, then it's fine. But you're going to do that? I'm not.
I think the Brincat makes us immediately back. If you had both of if you bring the Brincat in, I think you'll automatically solve a lot of those issues on the offensive side of the puck.
Then you still don't have a defenseman. Then you don't have a defenseman. You still don't have a defenseman.
Captain free agency route.
There is nobody in free agency who could fill that spot.
You did not need your defense to be fantastic.
Move on. Next comment. Rapid fire. We got to go rapid fire in these comments.
Tyler C said we didn't draft offensive this year because we drafted loads of offensive years in a prior. Alex Jeffries, William Dufour, Atu Ratu, Simon Holmstrom, Ruslan Ishikov, etc.
Okay. I just want to hit each one of these real quick. One-word answers. First one, probably not. Second one, learn how to skate. Third guy, maybe. Fourth guy, hell no. And the other guy, no.
Probably. So Jeffries, he's at least another 2 years away. He maybe can work out maybe 2-3 years away again still, even though he was drafted 2 years ago. Dufour, you're right. Learn to skate. Atu Ratu, I think he could maybe a year or 2 years away. Simon Holmstrom, probably not.
Absolutely not.
I mean, he's one of the few forwards drafted. He's one of the few players drafted in that first round that still haven't gotten a cup of coffee up in the NHL from that year's draft class.
As Will Smith would say, keep his name out your fucking mouth.
Grumpy dropping that bombs over here. What are you doing, Grump?
Actually, he'd say, hell no. Hell no. And Ishikov, no way.
Not maybe, but he's still a far way away.
No way.
Sorry. The Wiki 50 Cal said, obviously the other two forward picks were overagers. Yep. Scott L says here, you think the Devils made a mistake by drafting Nimick over either Cooley or Shane Wright?
No. They have their forward group is young. Their centers are young. I mean, unless you're jettisoning one of them, their biggest need was defense. They wanted the winger. That's the kid.
Yeah, with how their offense is, Nimick is a pretty good call. More of a positional pick rather than a talent/potential pick. Yep.
But he's good, though. I mean, he's still really good. Come on.
John A said, seemed like a makeup pick for passing on Makar in favor of Nico Hischier.
Yeah. Boy, talk about that, right? And Makar was like consensus number 4. He was certainly nobody thought he was number 1. He turned out way better.
John A said, Grump, your boy Corey Proman gave us a C-.
I'm not surprised. No one stood out. There's nobody say, wow, that's a kid who can really make a difference. There are none of those guys on that draft.
You're not going to ever have that when you're drafted.
Not true.
Drew L said, speaking of the Hurricanes, they didn't re-sign Tony DeAngelo. Not going to lie, left me scratching my head a bit.
They traded him to Philadelphia.
What do they want to get back in return from Philly, by the way? I forgot.
I think 3 picks. I don't know what they were, but 3 picks. I mean, and they feel like they got to explain whatever he said when he was with the Rangers. I'm like, move on from that. He was a solid citizen for Carolina. I don't see what the issue was.
Yeah.
I mean, he kept his nose clean. I mean, shit. Move on.
Brian B said, jokes aside, serious note, there are going to be looking at pretty much the same team again up front this year. I 100% agree with you, Brian. How long do we have to have the same look at the same team year in and year out? A team that's far from a cup contender. So sad.
Until Lou Lamoriello's gone.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you one thing. If he doesn't make any other moves, he should be fired immediately and bring somebody else in.
There has to be a big move on the forward group.
We are not good enough to not. Here's the thing. Unless we get a forward, we're not even good enough to make the playoffs. We're not going to make playoffs.
George P. said, can you imagine the orange shopping Bailey? Lunacy.
True.
Yep. Christmas said here, the defense will be better. I think if they add a winger, they will make the playoffs next year.
It has to be a winger who plays on the first line, though.
Yes, I agree with that. Nicholas C. says here, only thing that gives me a glimpse of hope is with Lambert, our youth can get more involved and push us over the edge. Wallstrom and Bellows can actually get chances, and Barzal and Bavilier get to open up. What do you guys think?
For me, who's going to sit? You're going to have to sit one of the sacred cows. Is he willing to do that? That's my biggest concern. Are you willing to play the younger guys and sit one of the lazy dogs like number 27 or number 12? Are you, or what the hell is F-minus's number? I don't even know. Yeah, Palmieri or whoever doesn't work hard. Are you willing to sit those guys to give a guy like Bellows, who played well under Lambert, and Oliver Wallstrom, give them legitimate shots to be stars on that team?
It should be a fresh slate. Simple as that. Whoever performs the best out in camp, you get the job. You don't perform well in camp, they're going to start riding the pine to start the year. I'm not saying you can't earn yourself a roster spot back. If you don't play well in camp, we don't like what we see from you in practice, you're getting off to a slow start, the best way I'm going to get you to motivate you is to be a healthy scratch the first few games of the year. Adam Pellick think about this. Adam Pellick under Barry Trotz's year, he broke out with a healthy scratch the first 3 or 4 games in favor of Luca Spiza. Let that one sink in.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
Top five defensive defenseman in the league was a healthy scratch to Lucas Spiza. Anyway, Jake K says here, with regard to Romanov, I'm going to reserve my judgment until I see him play. We have to consider what the expectations are for the 13th overall pick. All the Montreal fans love him. That's all I've got for my understanding of the trade.
Same here. And like I said, I don't even remember seeing him play, honestly. But if he is as advertised, I don't have a problem with the trade.
David, he says, hey guys, if we cannot make a move for Johnny Gaudreau that we all want, why can we not trade Scott Mayfield's $1.5 million, not resigning with us next year, and Anthony Bavilier, along with a pick for Vladimir Tarasenko? Report is that the Carolina Hurricanes are in talk with St. Louis for him. St. Louis needs a defenseman, and if we do not make 1 or 2 moves to improve the current team, it's a D+ for this offseason.
Oh, I think that's too high a grade for the offseason if you don't make moves.
Would it be an F double minus, Grump?
There's no such thing as an F double minus. It's an F minus. It's the Kyle Palmieri grade. But no, I would probably give us a D, I would just say a D, because you did help the defense. Hypothetically, you did help the defense by getting younger. So I'm fine with that. But unless you did step 2, unless you went to step 2, which is getting forward group, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, Christmas said, wasn't Josh Bailey the 13th overall pick when we drafted him? No, he was 9th. DeHaan was like 12 or 13, 12th. And the good guy wins one says, I like the draft. Romanov was playing on a team that had lost almost 50 games. Losing, a 13th overall pick for him was fine. It wasn't like we lost a 3rd overall pick for it. Plus, I like Cal Odelius.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm fine with the Odelius pick. He's a guy, a puck-moving defenseman in the back end, defensive defenseman. It's what he is.
Try to stand that anytime you can. Chris Smith says here, Sorokin and Romanov were good friends when they played together in the KHL. That they were. David D says here, we are definitely making the playoffs next year. We made big moves. Re-signing back Sebastian Aho and other AHLers. Yes, David, absolutely. They're going to make huge impacts this year. I'm glad you're on board.
I want to say that's sarcasm off at the end of that.
John Smith said, "What the fuck is CJ talking about?" He lost me at peanut butter. Now I want a sandwich. There it is. I'm glad it worked out well for you too, John. Making you hungry one step at a time. Cliff Neal says reports said that Goudreau are to Philly. I saw that Philly might not have the cap space to fit him there.
No, don't worry. Every other teams are capable of doing that. Believe me, the only team who has $12 million worth of cap space and not able to sign anybody is the Islanders. Philly's got like $3 million, and they can sign a guy to a $15 million a year deal somehow.
Chris Smith said left-handed defensemen are a premium.
Actually, it's right-handed defensemen are premiums, but somehow we ran out of them by trading Devon Taves and actually addition by subtraction with Leddy, who actually I think Chara was better than Leddy, to be honest, and Andy Green.
You're going to make me freaking roll out of my seat. If I was dead, I'd be turning in my freaking urn if I was cremated. You think Zdeno Chara was better than Nick Leddy? Please,
Nick Leddy didn't play any defense. I hated Nick Leddy.
Zdeno Chara is a freaking turnstile. I can't. I'm not going down that rabbit hole, brother. Rich A said here, I don't think Montreal had the cap space to re-sign Romanoff. Well, he didn't have to worry about it. Yeah, he couldn't have had any competing bids for him.
Yeah.
And Angela N said Forsberg signed with Nashville. Yep. Unfortunately, Scott L says here Forsberg re-signed 8-year extension with Nashville. If Goudreau goes either to Philly or New Jersey or stays in Calgary, where do you think Lou might look for a scorer?
You know, I think the biggest problem with Lamoriello is he doesn't have a plan B. It's just plan
A's or and then when the plan B comes up, he's in scramble mode and has to overpay for everything. Even when we sign back players for a plan B, we overpay them too.
I just don't think he ever has a plan B. When he didn't get Panarin, what did he do? He signed a piece of crap, number 27, to a ridiculous contract that didn't need to be signed. He wasn't going anywhere. No one had interest in him. No one. And they wildly overpaid for him. And we said it the day of that signing. Brock Nelson, that one's panned out okay.
That one's panned out really. That's the best signings he's had out of that group.
And then Jordan Eberle. I mean, Jordan Eberle, once again, had to subjugate his game to play the Lamoriello Trotz style, which, hey, that's fine. He did that. He was a good teammate. The thing that they really missed was the chemistry that he had with Matt Barzal. And I think you saw losing Eberle this year really hurt Barzal, I thought. Not because Eberle was the greatest player ever, but because Matt Barzal I don't think he had anybody on the first line he could trust.
Let's continue on here, Grump. I think didn't have anybody you can trust, and that's just been one of those repeat things. I mean, Matt Barzal, I feel bad for him. I'm hoping we address the need for a top-line guy for him, because if not, shit, I feel
tough to resign. If you're him, do you say, man, I'm not going through this again?
They're going to lowball the hell out of him because of no point production, because he has years where he plays with Leo Komarov on his freaking line. Are you expecting him to play for always down like on a penalty kill and put up points on the board? I don't.
Let's say they lowball offer him. What's to stop him from buying a 1-year extension after next year and going free agency?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And then you're right back to square one. George P says Lou isn't doing shit.
Fairly accurate.
Yep, I think you're right. Wade F says, TJ, what you said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in your ramblings were you even close to rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber. What movie is that from? I know it's from a movie. Is it from Animal House?
No, it's not. I just think he was making a comment on what you were saying.
Oh, it's from a movie.
I think it was probably that peanut butter and jelly ridiculous thing that you said. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like I said,
it's from Billy Madison. Here it is. I've heard that one before. I'm like, where the hell have I heard that from? Give me a second. It's a 30-second clip, and you have to watch 15 seconds of ads to watch a 31-second long clip. Isn't that great, Grump?
It's great.
Hold on a second. Let me pull it up.
If you just leave the sound off while that's playing and then, put the sound on while I'm talking, then it would work.
Grumpy, I'm trying to get there, brother.
Maybe you should just not have to put the picture up. You just listen to it.
Yeah, I'm going to murder you, Grump.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but
You remain.
Where's your baseball cap?
Uh,
You should wear a baseball cap like that every time we go on this show.
You're grumpy.
And yeah, you even wear the hat stupid.
I can go ahead and wear my flat brim hat like
I
that.
hate those flat brim hats.
That just makes me look super bald like this. Because my big old forehead doesn't cover anything on it. So I can just wear it like this, Grump. Is that better for you?
Wow, you got it. You got an 8 head. That,
It's like a 7 or 8 head, yeah.
yeah.
What's up, Frank? How are you? Angela N says we aren't getting any scoring winger for Barzal, are we?
I don't think so. But he realizes we have to, but I just don't know. I honestly don't.
Though?
No, I think he does. I just don't know if he's capable of making the move anymore. He's 80 years old. He's freaking 80. I'm sorry. And here's the thing. For an 80-year-old man, he's got his wits about him. You know, he's in great health, great shape, more power to him. He's still freaking 80. I just don't think he can keep up with the guys who are 35, 40. I'm sorry.
Mr. B said, if Romanov becomes a dependable top pairing defenseman under Doug Huda's mentorship, by time he's 25, will you say it was a good trade?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If he's a partner that can stay with Dobson for years to come, and you know that becomes their number one pairing, because I think they will become the number one pairing because Dobson's just better than the other two guys, then I mean, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. We might think the 13th pick is a overpay at this time, but if he pans out, it's not at all.
If he is a bona fide top pairing defenseman, no, trading the pick works well. I'm not sure he'll be that as a top pairing defenseman.
He's going to make it.
Well, I know Bobby Orr Jr. is on the way, so don't you worry, guys.
I said Dennis Potvin Jr.
Yes, Grumpy.
DP Jr. Dennis Potvin Jr.
Yeah, I like Bobby Orr Jr. Brandon Gaines says Dobson and Romanov will combine for around $6 million max, and both are 22 with a lot of upside. How is that a bad thing?
It's not. It's not, Brandon. It's not.
Just not going to respond. Just going to, because we've got to keep the comics going. Brett W. says here, nope. Going to have to put Wallstrom where he belongs and hope he fulfills his potential.
Great. I'm all for that too.
Guys, stop it or move on, says Brian B.
Exactly.
I'm doubling down. I'm doubling down now, Brian B. After that comment. Bob, son of Stan, says, howdy, boys. TJ, you sound like a typical employee who criticizes management, which is Lou in quotations, or Lou in parentheses, or Lou in, what are those? Those parentheses. When you have no idea what it's like being a manager and what they deal with. No, I understand about asset management more than you know. Mark A. says, you guys are overeating this draft.
Exactly. Thank you, Mark. Thank you,
Mark. It's the off season, man. We're gonna overeat when things happen. When the first day of free agency comes around, what?
It was unnecessary. Just do a blow by on them. No one's gonna make a difference for years.
The off season, Grump. This is a twice a week podcast, and now you want to zoom on. Give him my example. Oh.
Move on.
And then Scott L says here, who do you think the steal and bust of the first round is going to be? You're talking about in this year's draft. I assume it's this year's draft. I like Brad Lambert to Winnipeg. I liked Isaac Howard to Tampa. I thought those are two guys that fell and slipped. I think those are good spots. I think Sam Rinzel for Chicago is a guy who might be able to, young defenseman, mobile. I think he moves well. Again, a guy who provides offense and defensive touch. That's a guy who I think could grow into something special.
I think the Howard kid is going to be the steal, and I think Brad Lambert is going to be the bust.
Freaking bastard. TJ, don't even know who the player is. I don't know who that's supposed to be geared towards.
Probably about Romanov, or who could be anybody. You don't know who any of the players are.
Yeah, that's true. Jackson B says, hey, Grump.
What's up, Jackson?
Raleigh says here, got a question as a new NHL fan. What's up, Raleigh? What's the question? Oh, this is from a while ago. Who is LeBron / Brady of the NHL? Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid. So if you're going to want to watch the most talented player, that's the guy you watch.
Yeah.
But you'll be prepared for a lot of heartbreak if you if you follow them too. If you're looking for the team that wins, go look at teams like Tampa, Colorado, teams of that ilk. And then Jackson B also says Vince Dunn Grump ?
Not anymore.
No.
And he's going to make way more money than Romanov does.
Yes. Yeah. Bob Sonistan said, not saying Lou is great or without issues, but just that you have no idea at all what goes in negotiations between organizations.
True.
I can tell you this. I've seen prior general managers. I've seen some general managers that looks like, man, every time they make a trade, they win. How does that happen? And I've seen some general managers to where every time they make a trade, they seem to be on the losing side.
Garth Snow never lost a trade. I don't think ever did he lose a trade.
Yep.
But that's why he didn't make a whole lot of trades
Thomas Vanek. That was the only one.
Only when he traded him.
Addition and subtraction was a big loss, in my opinion. That was the biggest loss he had. The time he got pressured put on him to be successful, he struggled. Darren Z said, because we always hit on our draft picks, I'd rather have an NHL ready player. Jeff D says here, Grumpy is right here. Definitely could have asked for more in return. Saw online Montreal was originally asking for Beauvillier and multiple picks for Romanov before the deal happened, as per Andy Graziano. He's a guy who usually has inside info. He writes for writes about the Islanders, I believe. I'm not too familiar with Andy, but I think from what I've understood, he does pretty good work. Anthony R says, from the reports and whatnot, seems like the picks were pretty good. High skilled, fast skaters. And Jake K says, regarding Romanov, it all boils down to what the expectations are for the 13th overall pick. Does it typically, a 13th overall pick, translate to a top 4 defenseman? Yes.
Maybe. Or it could be a bust. That's what happens when you're drafting 18-year-old kids. You don't know what you're going to get. You
usually, right, you're looking at good chances that you've got a situation where you're saying, I've got myself a top 4 forward, top 6 defenseman. Jacob Vrana, Julius Honka never panned out. I mean, I just looked at a few years' drafts because I saw this comment earlier on.
Nick Ritchie.
Larkin worked out. Sonny Milano's okay. Travis Sanheim's okay. Alex Tuch is good. Yeah. You look at Tony D'Angelo, good. And you can, like from 13 to 20, you're looking at pretty much, that's a 2014 draft. And not every draft is created equal, which I think is important to add in.
The whole thing is Romanov's only 22.
That's correct.
And but at the end of the year, he's playing top 4 minutes for Montreal. He got better as the year went on. Isn't that what you want from a young player? I think so. I mean, even that he didn't make it. Zubril didn't make it.
Jacob Zobril never did. Jacob DeBrusk has been good.
Lawson Krause, no. Dennis Gurianov, no. I mean, a lot of those guys.
Kyle Connor, yes. Thomas Chabot, yes. Evgeny Svechnikov, not really. Joel Eriksson or Eriksson Ek, yes. So I mean, like, you're looking in that 13 to 20 range. You're probably getting a player who's going to play either a top 4 roles as a defenseman or a top, as a top 6 guy as a forward.
Or they could bust.
You're looking for in that spot.
But Lamoriello did say that that his scouts said that the players they were looking for, and you have to assume they were defensemen, were not going to make it to that pick. There were 5 defensemen.
I'm glad we were only looking at defensemen. I'm glad that's all we were looking for.
I'm just saying that they had 5 defensemen that went before the Islanders would have picked at number 13. You aren't going to pick the number 6 defenseman. I mean, there were forwards there to absolutely be had.
You definitely find. I mean, like, you're looking for a guy who's a top 4 defenseman in this 13 round range.
Okay, but you got a lot of guys in there who were busts. Okay?
You got guys in there who don't turn out to be a top 4 guy. You got some guys who turn out to be top 4 defensemen. I'm just saying, right? You could roll into your spot where you have a Charlie McAvoy or a Jacob Chikrin, or you can roll in a spot where you have a Julius Honka. So your likelihood of getting a guy who's a top 4 steady Eddie defenseman who also provides offense is much higher in a spot like this than it is in the second round. Right. So, I mean, like, I'm expecting a guy who performs in a spot like that at 13.
I like the deal.
Dave Biha says, TJ is so dramatic. 22 years old, highly touted, early second round pick who made big strides like Dobson in 20. I love this guy's game, plus his skating. We overpaid, yes, but I can see this kid being very good.
Yeah.
I just do not like overpaying.
Okay, if he turns out to be a stud who plays on your top pair. It's not an overpay, not even close.
correct.
Matter of fact, it's an underpay.
If he is a top line defenseman, I'd say you're getting the value for what the 13th overall pick is. No doubt about it.
He's
if
top
not, you're
4.
getting more value.
But he's a top 4 now. He's a top 4
He's
now.
a top 4 now on a team that has freaking Weidman as a defenseman as a top 4. He's a top 4 now on a miserable team. Is your top 4 on a team that's really good? We're going to find out.
We're
going to find out real quick if he's at the caliber of Noah Dobson, at the caliber of guys like Ryan Pulock, at the caliber of Scott Mayfield, at the caliber of Adam Pelech, or if he was one of the few defensemen that were adequate on a miserable Montreal team, which makes the Montreal fans love him because he's the only player who plays defense on a bad team. We'll find that out real soon. Anthony R. says here, really like the left winger Quinn Finley. Fast with a good shot. Isaiah George is the 3rd fastest skater in the OHL.
Yeah. I mean, they're just guys. I'm glad we got guys who could skate. That's my biggest takeaway. We didn't go for the behemoths on defense. We went for guys 6 foot, but really maneuverable, can move the puck and play defense. I have no problem with that. And they can skate. Same thing with Finley. Can skate.
Bob Sonestan says, until we see Romanov play, how can we even say that we've overpaid for him?
Thank you, Bob.
Just based off of what prior amounts are that you have to give up for players that are defensive defensemen, I just think it's an overpay. Anthony R. says, I agree. What, Grumpy? We got to go through a lot of comments. Said, yes, Bob. What else did you want to say besides yes, Bob? Keep it quick.
I think he's as much a defensive defenseman as Odelius is.
So you just wanted to go ahead and add a little stab in there, just kind of to joke around for shits and giggles.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Anthony R. said, thanks for extending it there, that extra 30 seconds each comment. Anthony R. says, I agree. We're done for this offseason. This is our team going into next year.
Well, expect more failure.
Dave also saying here, and not all top 15 picks work out. Seen many fails. I think this kid's floor is very high. Not sure about his ceiling.
True.
Okay. Anthony R. says, we just re-signed Salo, Hutton, and Aho. Surprised about that one. I'm shocked we signed back to Aho a little bit too.
I'm not. 7th defenseman. That's what he is.
Jake K says here, our top priority for the offseason was getting defensemen. Our left defenseman in the last game included Char and Green. I've always said you could have gotten any defenseman you want to throw the dart at the board. It would have been an upgrade over Char and Green. Mr. B says here, have either of you given any thought to the notion of our young forwards actually performing a lot better in a different system, to the point where in 2022, 2023, coming out the year of Beauvillier, Bellows, and Wallstrom?
I think that's what if they don't get anybody else, that's what they're hoping. That's for certain.
That is a lot of hope. The only thing I worry about, Mr. B, is it's a lot of hope to be putting on what could happen if they improve. It's a lot of ifs and buts on that.
Now, the younger guys performed for Lane Lambert. Here's the thing. You know that Barry absolutely didn't trust the younger kids. And maybe if you give them a chance, maybe they produce.
It's a 3-game sample size. I will just bring it back to that. Dave B says here, he might have some limitations, but there certainly is some strategy here based on the salary, age, type of defender he is, and who's available in free agency. I do agree with that, Dave. Anthony R says he also signed Koivula, Appleby, Anderoff, and Jeff Kubiak. Lou's been busy. LOL, that he has. John Smith said not shopping forwards means that if we do get somebody, Wallstrom is sitting. You watch.
I'm going to say one other thing. What's the one thing Lamoriello never does? He never announces signings until just before training camp. They didn't even announce Palmieri and Parise and Chara until training camp. So you know what that tells me? He knows that fans are pissed, and he's like, well, we got to throw him a bone. Let's just tell him we're signing back these AHL guys. That'll get me off the hook.
We signed back Robin Salo, fans. Let's be excited.
Expecting big things from him next year.
Oh, man. Jesus. Yeah, you're right. He always waits. If Johnny Gaudreau stays as an unrestricted free agent for like 15 or 20 days, I'd feel confident he's going to be an Islander. But if he's off the board, if he's off the board within the first day, I don't even need to read who it's gone to. I just know it's not us. Dave.
If we sign a big name, there's no way it waits till the end. Not this year.
Okay. I hope you're right. Dave B says, it's ironic, though. We lost a great player in Devon Taves, but now we're also giving up a top 15 pick to fill his spot.
He
We
would
got
not have
two.
fit with Dobson, though. That he would not have fit with Dobson, but I understand the premise. Yes, Dave.
You would have fit with Pulak.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, and you could have had Pellick with Dobson. But yeah, we got 2 late second round picks for him, and you know how it is. I talked about it ad nauseum during the draft. 2 late second round picks for a guy who is a Norris Trophy type of candidate for a guy who's an unknown at this point. 13th overall selection. Dave B says here, I do wonder what would have happened in the expansion draft with Taves and Mayfield needing the 3rd spot. Or do we lose a big pick to keep Taves in 2020 anyway?
No, if you had to, you give them a draft pick to take Bailey or
Right.
Everly.
Or what you could have done too.
Or to say these guys are off, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I know it didn't happen. They didn't do that. The 2020 expansion draft, they really didn't do any of those predetermined picks. Hey, you draft him, or
if they kept Taves and Mayfield, who would they would have had to expose one of them to the expansion draft. So what you do is you say to Seattle, you do like, hey, we'll give you a 1st round pick or a 2nd round pick if you pick between these group of guys.
If you take Josh Bailey, he's a 1st,
yeah,
or 2nd, yeah, and then you get rid of 2 birds, 1 stone.
Right.
Brett W says, honestly, think Lou has, and Pavillier is a 3rd liner. That's his ceiling, probably.
Yeah.
Thomas Cook, wildly inconsistent. Pavillier is. Thomas Cook said that 13th overall pick could have been a centerpiece of a package that could have brought us in a goal score. Exactly, True. Thomas. True. It could have, but we used it by overpaying a defensive defenseman. Pac-Man says here, I know he had a great season, but Fiala is a 2nd-line player.
True.
That also could be very true. But he did have a great year. Brian B., and he might light it up in L.A. with the team they're building. He might be extremely successful when we look back and say, wow, we really should have made that trade. I mean, we had a higher pick than the Kings did too. 5 picks higher. Brian B. says Johnny Hockey not signing with the Islanders.
I agree with that also.
Probably right. Pony Boy Curtis, what's up? He says, boys, I wanted to tell you how impressed I am that you kept the whole being related and the nature of your relationship hidden this entire time. I've been a fan for almost 2 years now, and this is the guy who is formerly known as Jerry Springer, etc. I deleted my Facebook so I can watch on YouTube now. I lost my dad when I was 11 years old to a work-related accident.
Really
so live vicariously through you guys now. Thank you so much, TJ and Grump. I love you guys.
Well, glad we could bring some joy to your life.
Absolutely. Thank you there, Pony Boy. I appreciate the kind words. Absolutely do. And Danforth P says here, Patrick Laine and JG or JP.
He's not coming here. He costs too much. Believe me, Lou's got a myriad of reasons why he can't bring high-end talent to this team.
Yeah, he'll come up with a new one this offseason.
And here's the thing: the media lapdogs they just lap that shit right up for him. Yeah, whatever you say, Lou.
Excuse after excuse, and they just have him buying the bullshit excuses.
Enemy of the cartel.
Enemy of the cartel is right. Hold on. Why is my enemy of the cartel a lot more orange to the face? Have you worn that shirt?
Because you got a different color shirt. Mine is white. I think yours is whatever color that is.
Mine is like tan. Yours is white.
Yeah, I don't know. What the hell do I know? Here's the thing. I wear mine more than yours. How about that?
That could be it too. Frank said, yeah, I'm still shocked about that. And then Thomas B says, gents, I don't think that Lou makes another move. I really think he believes the forwards are good enough. I think you're right. Pac-Man says, Burakovsky is 27, has never scored more than 22 goals. We have enough 20-goal scorers. He's one of those guys who's more of a creator.
I didn't have a problem bringing Burakovsky in if you brought in like a Gaudreau type and he's your 2nd piece. I had no problem with that.
If you really were making a lot of changes, I would have been okay if you didn't get a big name guy and decided we're going to get a guy of Vinny Trocheck and a guy like Burakovsky because it's 2 number 2 wingers, or Vinny Trocheck's more of a center, but you can kick Brock Nelson out to wing. And you could say we've got 2, solid 2nd line type of guys or 2nd line quality guys that replaces instead of we've got a really bona fide top line guy. If you bring in 2 solid 2nd liners, I think that still does the same thing.
Tell me Vinny Trocheck is not an Islander type player.
He's the Islander type of player. He plays center. We could kick Nelson or Jean Gabriel. We could kick Jean Gabriel Pageau out to a left wing, so he has those cross body shots open all day long. Kick him out. Kick him out.
And then Andrew Kopp is another guy I like. Those guys are not going to cost an arm and leg. They'll be $5-6 million, but they're not going to cost 11 or 12.
Have the space, and we don't have the room or the roster room or the space.
Well, it's the roster room.
Frank said, "Why did it take Lou? Why did they fire Lou also? Because he won some cups many years ago, or why didn't they fire Lou?
GMs don't get fired near as often as coaches do, and you remember he's like I said, he's like a legend in the GM industry. He did bring Trotz in. He gave the Islanders legitimacy again, but he has served his time. I think it's time to move on from him. And make sure I want to make sure he takes Fredo with him. The last thing I want is Fredo in charge of the big team.
Apex Legends says here, you can't do a hockey trade summer and seriously think the Islanders are contenders. Lou is more delusional than Goldilocks from the Collie.
TJ doesn't even know who that is.
No, who's that?
There was a guy in the Coliseum. He used to wear, it wasn't even a wig. It was like, I don't even know what that material is. Like, like pom-pom material.
Okay.
You know what that is? He would wear that and it was gold under his Islanders hat. Yeah, his name was Goldilocks. Nice guy, but, a little out there.
Let's see here.
Yeah. Not a bad guy. I mean, like I said, I met him, but little, everything was great. Everything was great. Worst team in the league. Hey, we're right there. We're competing. We're contending for the championship.
How long ago to Goldilocks? How long?
Oh, gosh. Shit. I don't know. 30 years ago?
Oh, he was arrested.
Oh, that's too bad.
Hold on a second.
Well,
Craig Goldie. Hold on. I'm down a rabbit hole, Grump.
Obviously. All you need is a picture of him in the Goldie.
I'm trying to get to a picture, and now it's pulled me to a Reddit thing, and it's still loading. We're working on it. We'll get it here in a sec. Lou needs to retire, says Brian B.
He needs to be retired. He needs to be retired.
Oh, maybe I misread it. Sorry.
In fact, he showed his hand by saying hockey trade. Told me he's done mentally. Yeah, I think he is too. I just don't think he keep up anymore. Ponyboy Curtis says, but now that you guys mention it, both of your heads are sort of shaped like baked potatoes. And the follically challenged thing appears to be genetic. Here's the thing. When I was TJ's head, I had a full head of hair. I used to have a damn hairline like a damn monkey. Not anymore, though. Actually, I don't think it was till I started having TJ and children that all of a sudden my hair started falling out.
Hold on. If this is true, he was arrested for a guy named Craig. He was arrested for inappropriately touching a female.
Oops. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah. They don't have a picture of this guy. Damn it. Yeah, he was arrested in a parking lot. Detectives, a 21-year-old victim was standing outside of Uniondale with friends when Craig Stanley, 54 years old, allegedly approached a group of them and proceeded to touch a victim in an inappropriate manner.
Uh-oh.
Goldilocks, you've ruined your legacy. I didn't even know who you are, and it's already gone.
Okay.
And got here. Brian J says Lou is sleeping right now.
I don't want to say who he reminds me of, but that's who he reminds me of.
You like this one, Grump?
The Grumpy Train. Love it. That's right, Pac-Man.
Hold on a sec. I want to try to pull up a picture. Craig Stanley Islanders. Oof. I see him. Give me a sec. I'll get him pulled up.
Put the next comment up there while you're playing.
I found him here. And now, and now I feel bad when we were giving condolences to Grump in mid-season about the tragedy he faced. We never gave TJ condolences about the loss of his grandma. I appreciate it, Pony Boy, but I always vicariously, I knew when the sentiment they were shared. You know what I mean? I always am just like, just sharing it for the family. Frank says his incompetence in trading Taves for peanuts, and he blamed Barry for it. But it was Lou as the general manager. He's still trying to fix it. Could have moved to Letty first and figured out Taves.
And you want to know where you heard that first, Frank? On the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. We talked about that the day of the trade. Why are you moving the young guy to keep the old guy? Made no sense. And you see what happens. We gave up a Stanley Cup for Nicoletti.
Oh man, Grumpy. This guy is something else. Hold on a second. I'm gonna get him zoomed in.
Pony Boy.
He was What's that?
The next comment. You can
Yeah,
start.
yes. Okay.
Well, you can pull up the comments and
I
then
have
I'll.
Grumpy. I'm on a different screen trying to grab the pictures so I can do
Oh, okay.
this in a second. Give me one freaking moment, please.
Okay.
Here you go,
Tony
Grumpy.
Boy Curtis, next comment. And does that make the warden TJ's mother? It does make the
It
warden
does.
TJ's. And here's the thing. They are the same person. Mean, like freaking snake.
Do you want? We'll show you the good time picture of Goldilocks.
Oh boy.
This is a highlight right here.
Oh yeah.
He's in his element. He's at the game, very happy or very angry. Everything is good, I guess. But at the game, when the tickets were cheap.
Oh,
Well, hold on, let me go back to showing that picture. Give me a sec. Now some of the low lights of Goldilocks. Little mug shot there. Was looking a little rough upon arrest.
He bled Islanders blue and orange though. He did.
It's just
Regardless of what happened, he was a real Islander fan.
that was in 2013. Maybe he's out by now.
Oh, maybe he didn't even go to jail.
Maybe he didn't.
Maybe just a fine.
He was arrested. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get out of that. Okay.
We'll remember him from his better days. I'll just say that.
Scott L said here, what do you guys think about the hires of the two new assistant coaches?
I like Doug Huda. He should help out on the defensive end, particularly with our new superstar Romanov back there. So I think that's a good thing. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know enough about the other one's coaching style. Hopefully it works out. The other guys didn't, so try somebody else. Spin the wheel, make a deal.
Is that what it is, huh?
Yeah.
Give me a sec. I'm getting a lot of these freaking. Okay. Give me a sec. We had so many of those damn spam things that are popping up. I'm trying to clear out of the tab here. Give me a sec, Grumpy.
Brian says, we don't even know till the end of free agency, but Lou doesn't let anything slip. Yeah. I just have a feeling that, remember, we have never signed a big name free agent here ever. Andrew Ladd, the biggest name free agent to ever sign for the Islanders.
TJ Grump look like that family photo where they do matching Christmas pajamas. Nice merch, though.
Okay. True story. This last Christmas, the warden bought everyone came home for Christmas. And she bought everybody the same outfit. And we took a picture with all of us wearing our little Christmas outfits. Pajamas. They weren't, Toronto Maple Leaf pajamas, but they were little.
They were New York Islander pajamas, of course.
Yeah.
Frank says here, laughing my ass off, the warden. Thomas B says here, yes, Grumpy old man. What pisses me off is none of our beat bloggers say anything negative about Lou. He's never questioned vigorously. Yeah.
True.
Ricardo says here, yeah, John Smith. It looks like Julian from Trailer Park Boys. He does look like Julian. He looks like a good Julian. Now, have you ever seen Trailer Park Boys, Grumpy?
I couldn't watch. I watched like 15 minutes one episode. I'm like,
every time. Okay, you have to get through about the first season of Trailer Park Boys.
I'm not going to watch a whole first season.
You've got to commit. I tried it a few times and I didn't like it, and then I wound up getting it, and I wound up loving it. He does look like Julian, though.
I've been watching a new show, and I think one of the guys from Trailer Park Boys is on it. It's called Shoresy. It's on Hulu, about a guy who plays in the Northern Ontario Senior Hockey Organization. It's called No Show is the league. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious. I watched the first episode yesterday. I'm like, man, that was a fast 22 minutes. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
What character is he?
Whoever the hell, I don't know.
Oh my God.
The show was called Shoresy.
Terry Ryan.
Maybe. I don't know.
Terry Ryan before, didn't we? Yeah. He had a hockey podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network.
We talked with him?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Yes. He's a movie star now, apparently. No, none of these guys are from, I don't see any of these guys from Trailer Park Boys, but maybe I'm wrong.
I enjoyed the show Shoresy. If you're a hockey fan, what the hell?
George P said, yeah, can't win all games 0-0. Absolutely. Frank said he better not be back, Bailey. Could moron Lou want him to get to his 1,000 games as an Islander? Who gives a crap? Carlos C. A lot of comments, Grumpy. What do you want to say about Josh Bailey that you haven't already talked negatively enough about Josh Bailey today?
I was just going to say, I just think maybe he thinks that Bailey's part of the solution. I don't, but maybe Lou does.
Carlos C. said, I'm worried about Sorokin.
He didn't say he's worried. He said, worried about Sorokin? Don't know. I'm not.
It's not a question mark. He said he's worried about Sorokin.
Okay.
Josh Bailey is the shit slat at the end of taking a dump. Josh Bailey is a hemorrhoid. Okay, man.
I think that's being generous, actually.
TJ, I have never had a hemorrhoid and never will. Just jinxed himself. Oh, God.
Very true. I can't wait because I know it's coming. Believe me.
A lot. Brian J said could have gotten Tony D'Angelo for a lot cheaper than Alexander Romanov. Thank you very much, Brian J. That we could have.
Yeah, but he doesn't fit the need that we want.
A puck moving defenseman that has offensive skill that could move well. That doesn't fit a need that we've got.
I don't think they were ever bringing him back here.
I don't think they wanted to make it work via the cap. All this cap maneuvering that we said that they should have done, they never wanted to commit to. I think it's the thing the Islanders have.
What I'm afraid is that Lou is the cap guy too.
It looks like he may be. Is Grumpy the emergency goalie this season?
Why not? What the hell? Never needed.
David D said, are we the least bit surprised that Bailey's not getting traded? Lou wants him 1,000 games to reach one team, our Islanders. Then his jersey, the jersey will be lifted into the rafters.
You know your team's a freaking loser when Josh Bailey's jersey is put in the rafters. I mean, that's just the epitome of failure.
Thomas B said the draft was fine. Notice that every draftee is an exceptional skater. Yep.
Bingo.
Good to be moving that direction. Thank God.
Yep.
SP says here, I'm still mad about the trade. I like Romanov. I really do, but he's not worth a 13th overall pick. Yep.
I hope he turns out to be worth a 13th overall pick.
I hope so too, because that just means better things for the Islanders. Scott L said, betcha Grump TJ doesn't get the banana in the tailpipe reference. No, I do. He showed it to me. We showed it on a show once. It's the only reason I know that.
What is it from?
Oh, it's from like some cop movie or like there. What movie is it from?
Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop. See,
I knew it.
Yeah. You did.
It was right. Eddie Murray goes running by.
Eddie Murphy, not Eddie Murray. Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murray. Very similar.
Eddie Murray, right up there with DB Cooper. And who did you butcher today? Somebody else's name. Who the hell knows?
Someone Khan.
Oh, that's right. James Cain. Oh my God.
James Cain.
The Hall of Fame with TJ name bungling.
David D says there's no can't in moving out a roster player to free up cap space for a goal scorer like Johnny Gaudreau or somebody like Tarasenko in a trade. Yep. I agree. SP said he had 19 points in 133 games, which isn't great, but that's not what he does. He's a great hard-hitting defenseman. The issue is he kind of is all he's shown. We pay Martin, Clutterbuck, and etc. for that.
Yeah, it's nice to have a defenseman who can lay the lumber a little bit. Martin blows. Clutterbuck's been. Why sign Clutterbuck to a 2-year extension? Why sign Casey Cizikas to a 6-year extension?
Because he always believes the team is currently constituted is going to be enough to be successful. SP said he's definitely worth a second and a third round pick or even a mid to late 20 pick. Yep. But 13th overall pick is much, much more the value that Romanov is worth. Think of who was there. Joakim Kemmel. Yep. Lettermacky, Lambert. Yep. Etc.
But okay, let's say he's worth.
Nazar was there as well. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's say SP that you say he was worth the 20th overall pick. Okay. They got back a fourth, which was actually like a late third, the last pick in the third round, right?
Jeez.
So it's kind of like the same thing. You got yourself an extra pick right at the end of the third round.
I'm done with you. Frank says here, Habs fans say he was forced to play the more defensive role. Some of them said that Romanov led defense in scoring in the minors.
Let's see. I mean, like I said,
I'll let you read that one, Grump.
R.I.P. Tony Sirico. I don't watch a lot of TV, but Paulie Walnuts is one of my favorite characters ever. You know who Paulie Walnuts? What show he was in, TJ? What? The Sopranos.
Oh, you just said Sopranos.
No, you didn't. You tried to mumble it because you didn't know.
Sopranos. I'm trying to pull something up, Grumpy. I need you to stall for like 15 seconds. That's why I'm letting you read that.
I'm always stalling for you all the time. I'm always stalling for you. I'm always covering for you all the time.
Keep everything going. We don't have 3 people that someone that pulls all this up and the people that talk, Grump. So as I need you to talk for a second.
Okay, are you done now? Have you done your thing? I stalled you for more than 15 seconds.
Okay, I've got distracted. I got distracted arguing with your ass.
It should be ready by now. Why isn't it ready?
Okay.
I gave you a 15
He
second.
never played in the AHL. He played in the KHL. In the KHL, 43 games played. First year in the KHL has 4 points. The next year played in the KHL, had 43 games played, 7 points. This is not a guy who's putting up points, guys. Newsflash, he's not going to be a guy who puts up even 35 to 40 points a year. This
That's
is a guy
fine.
maybe putting up 20 points a year.
That's okay. He plays with Dobson. I'm fine with that. That's Dobson's job on that pairing. I don't have a problem with that. He's young, can skate, moves the puck well, and is physical. I'm dialed in for that. I just hope he is all that.
Here, all scoring wingers, which we really need. Kemmel was projected top 8 in most mocks. Yes, he was. And he says, I have a feeling Romanoff is the only move we're going to make. Yep. Especially with the reports that Bailey and Varlamov aren't being shopped. Yet another stupid move by our idiot general manager.
True. True, and true. I think they will bring in, they're going to have to move somebody out. I mean, if they don't move somebody out, you can't bring anybody in, period. I've been saying it for the last 6 months.
I don't think they're moving anybody out because they're not bringing anybody in.
There you go.
John A says, Grump, did you leave the doghouse in the backyard did you leave him in a doghouse in the backyard his entire childhood? How in the double and the HE
double hockey sticks, does he not know? I don't know how. He's like I don't know what the kid's problem.
Something that never interested me.
He is half Polish, so maybe that has something to do with it.
SB said, "I gotta say this: Ratu better pan out because he's our only hope for the future. Aside from DeFore, who's basically an unknown, I think we get a 9-game stint. You think we get a 9-game stint?
No way. He's not going to play up at all next year. Too many guys." Unless you move guys out, you can't bring anybody up. Who's going to say?
TJ, in 1995, I bought a 3-family home in Bridgeport for $35,000 at an auction. And
that says $3,500.
Okay, sorry, $3,500 at an auction. And as we look for it, the guys it pulled out. I was hold on a second. As we looked for it, the guys I was with pulled out their guns. LOL. Bridgeport is okay. A lot of it is ghetto though. In the ghetto. Odelius, SP says, I like Odelius. He said to model his game after Dobson and Shea Theodore.
Yeah.
And John Smith says Kaprizov is having a work visa issue. SP said here, I would love nothing more than to be proven completely wrong about Romanoff. But I'll have to see how Joachim Kemmel, Lettermacki, and Nazar, they all pan out.
Yep. True.
Drell said, breaking news, Anders Lee slips on a banana peel, does a cartoon somersault, and walks and tears his ACL for the remainder of 2022, 2023.
For me, that sounds like a 4-year injury to me. I'll tell you what, if he fell and tore his knee, he'd never play on the Islanders again. I'd long-term injury his ass until it was time to get rid of him. I absolutely would do that.
Frank K said, back to bed for senile Lou. Dave F says, hey, they just re-signed Seabass. Let's go. Drew L says, speaking of DeBrincat, wasn't there a rumor that the Islanders offered Bailey, Bavillier, and Palmieri in the 13th overall pick for DeBrincat? I couldn't imagine that.
Why would Chicago want that, first of all?
I don't know. That's nobody would ever have something that specific information wise. Bob, son of Sand, said, sorry, didn't say this earlier, but howdy, boys. Love the show. Appreciate that, Bob. Thank you.
That's okay, Bob. I didn't mind you coming in ripping the shit out of TJ. It was fun to listen to. Especially when TJ reads it about himself, it's even better.
Ah, there it is. SP said, I also have to say, if Lou trades away our 2022 first round pick, I'll be having second thoughts about being a fan. JK, but I'll be extremely mad.
I don't think that happens. I don't think there's any way we trade next year's pick.
Okay. I hope you're right. Frank says, I'm really scared that Lou has anxiety about picking in the first round. So he trades out every year not to have to deal with the stress. Could be. I mean, hey, how else could you explain that? SP said, I think the Devils drafted by position instead of best player available, which more often than not comes back to bite you. My Devils friends was furious. You draft Shane Wright and you can trade him if he comes to it.
Okay, they have too many centers, too many young centers on the team. I mean, who are truly centers. and this kid's truly a center. He's not a winger. I mean, I don't know. Maybe trade back. I don't know.
That's the only thing. Maybe you could have suggested trade back. You don't get Nemec. You might get another defender though.
Well, but Nemec is pretty good too. I mean, let's not sell him short.
You could get Jurček. If you trade back, maybe with maybe Columbus wanted a forward at that group, but once Shane Wright and once Coughler off the board, they said, okay, we'll pick the next player available, which we believe is Jurček. You could have traded back and maybe got David Jurček. I like Jurček too. I liked what he brings to the table. I like his play.
Maybe they really liked Nemec though.
You better hope so. You better hope it wasn't just, hey, we're picking the best defenseman.
I heard that Shane Wright was not even an option for them. It was the kid who went first, or it was going to be defenseman.
Yeah. You're talking about Sikorsky, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Andre M says Lou needs to go if he doesn't make an impact move for a winger. I agree.
True.
Frank says, yep, I was shocked about the Devils' first-round pick. Isaac Howard, definitely the best dressed in the draft.
You know what that means?
He's a little flashy looking.
You know what that means?
What does that mean, Grumpy?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But here's the thing.
Do you believe Bailey is not being shopped? Yes.
I can't believe it either. He went to the perfect team. Howard went to the perfect team.
Do you believe that Bailey's not being shopped, Grump? Yes. I believe they are not shopping him.
Yeah.
If you're going to get a deal done, this is what Phil and I were talking about, and Grump and I off air too. If you're going to get a deal done, in all likelihood, you get it done during the draft, so you pick up some draft capital. You're not going to usually get a deal done and say, oh, we're not getting anything back in return for this. We're not having to give up anything in return for this. So we're just going to trade him after the draft. The likelihood of a deal getting done after the draft and before free agency, very low. Wade F says here, what do you think do you think Chicago's moving Patrick Kane?
Nope. They would have moved him before the draft.
Yep, I agree. Dan L says here, do you think that Mayfield is definitely not happening? He is such an attractive player to acquire future assets. I like Mayfield a lot, but do we need such a strong third-pairing defenseman?
If they're going to move him, that means we're out of the playoff hunt come the trade deadline and he gets moved. I cannot imagine any way that we re-sign him.
I can't either. I know Tommy B said that they're trying to, but I just can't believe that.
He don't know shit. I mean, here's the thing. Why are you going to pay a third-line defender upwards of $5 million a year? You're just not going to do it.
If he's willing to take a hometown discount, I could see it, but I don't think he would.
To what? What I mean? To what?
I could see as if he wanted to be at a $3 million a year contract or 3.5. I could see that happening. But if I'm Scott Mayfield, I'm saying I think I'm a top 4 defenseman. I want to get paid $5 million plus.
Absolutely. And
if I was in his shoes, if he is saying, hey, I love it on Long Island, we love where we live, we love the team, we're willing to take a hometown discount, I'm all down for giving him a hometown discount because, I mean, that's a fantastic sign. $3.5 million a year, that'd be a fantastic sign. Maybe Coach Tommy B, maybe they are trying to go after him. I wouldn't doubt it at all that they're talking to him. They should be talking to him.
I just think that you can get a lot for a guy like Scott Mayfield at the deadline. A 30, what's he going to, I don't know if he's 30 or 31 he's going to be at the deadline, making peanuts. That's a first-round pick. That's a first-round pick right there.
Frank says here, maybe Bailey is being shot, but Lou keeps everything so secretively. I hope. I don't know. Brett W says, didn't Lambert scratch Matt Martin for Ross Johnson last year when Trotz was out? I hope he does it again. And he scratches Bailey for Bellows.
I hope so too. I hope he says, Bailey, you're never playing for the. Maybe that banana peel could make its way over to Bailey's house as well.
The Wicked 50 Cal says, at least one thing we gotta sort of learned, or we sort of learned from the draft, is that the Islanders are seemingly moving towards getting guys who are plus skaters. Maybe that also goes for Lambert.
True.
And maybe Lambert will open up the system more than we think and treat the young players more fairly. That's a plus, and I think that's a possibility.
And if you have defensemen who can move the puck, you don't have to play as defensive. Maybe that's why they got my boy Romanov, DP the second.
Andre M says, have seen Romanov play. He is going to be a very good fit in the top 4.
I'm ecstatic for that.
Drew L says, let's hope the best case scenario is that we're competitive next season or we flat out suck. Yes, I don't want to be somewhere in the middle. to where we've got to double down and try to add to the team to make a playoff push.
Absolutely not.
That's the worst case scenario for us. Rich A says, this is our roster, and we'll be missing if this is our roster, we'll be missing the playoffs again.
And if we do qualify for the playoffs, it's like his number 8 seed.
Yeah. Frank says maybe all the so-called defensive defensemen being traded and acquired means that they will be shopping Mayfield. Nope.
Well, none of these guys are ready to step in right now. So, Mayfield will be gone before then. Like I said, I cannot imagine them re-signing him after this year.
SP said, I do remember I drafted Romanoff in my fantasy draft when it came over a year and a half ago. Dropped him pretty fast because in my league it didn't have hits as a points because he didn't put up anything else. Yeah, he's not going to be a guy who puts up a lot of points. Frank says, we must get Johnny Hockey. Remember, he wants to move to this area. This is where he's from. Grump, that's a bad take, SP said. Nick Leddy didn't play defense. If Nick Leddy didn't play defense, Chara didn't play any fence. Worst player I've ever seen, except maybe Ledoux when we called him up. That guy was that guy is playing awful.
I said that for TJ, honestly.
I know he was. Anybody's an upgrade over those two pieces, and if you upgrade your defense, you're going to have a better result with the top 5 goalie than you did last year. Simple as that. Chris Smith said, Anders League contract has to be the worst on the team.
Absolutely.
Yes. Christopher C. said, I was hoping Mr. Forsberg would have come here. Press robbed us. We had more money than they do. Well, I guess he didn't want to leave. Brian J., that's the only thing I can think. He's like, hey, I've got a known quantity here. Nashville's trying to make steps. Nashville added. They're trying to improve.
He wanted to stay in Nashville.
Yes, I believe that.
Players love playing in Nashville. They love the area.
It's a party city, party town. Have you ever seen Nashville? You ever been to Nashville? My God, it's a freaking party avenue. Just a whole bunch of drinking, a whole bunch of bars, a whole bunch of clubs. That's what it is. For a young hockey player in their 20s, not I don't know if he's married, but for a young hockey player if he's not married, right, he gets to party it up every time he wants. And anyway, Brian J. says Matt Barzal is leaving. No way he signs with no talent on this team. He's going to Seattle.
Brian has been saying this for
years.
If that happens, Brian gets credit.
Brian gets credit because he's been saying it for
absolutely he has. For 2 years he's been saying it.
What's Forsberg's AAV?
8.5.
8.5. Wow.
8 years, 8.5.
Yeah. Billy Madison. Speed it up, Junior, says Nick D. Frank saying to bend the brim of my cap. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate those flat brim caps. No.
You like this, Grumpy? Does this make you happy?
It looks stupid.
Does that make you happy, Grumpy, if I wear it like this?
No.
Anyway, let's just sign the Hanson brothers now. Ooh, yeah, they hit. They're physical out there.
They're in their 60s.
Said, who cares how old Lou Lamoriello is? He must make the move. It's a requirement.
The problem with my saying that he's old is the game's passed him by. It's like he's not with it anymore.
Red W says old time hockey. Christopher C said, you got to stop thinking about players' age. Age doesn't matter in this league. Skill, endurance, and durability do. When you're younger, you're going to be more durable. You're going to have, you're going to have more endurance and, skill. You want to find a sweet spot. The skill's usually going to be if in the prime of your career, you're going to have all 3 of those things. But we had a whole bunch of players in their prime of their career 2 years ago, and they get older and they're not getting more durable, more endurance, and the skill starts to die.
Players don't age like wine. They age like vinegar.
Brian J. said Tampa got the steal. I liked Isaac Howard.
Yeah, Tampa knows what they're doing.
That's what if you manage to trade back in a selection. I mean, you could have said, okay, we really like him. We got an early 2nd round pick. I like that he's still on the board. I'm trading up into the 1st round to draft Isaac Howard or Brad Lambert. You could find those guys. David D says, let's sign Phil Kessel to a 5-year, $5 million deal at 35 years old. That sounds like a very Lou Lamoriello type of thing to do.
No freaking way.
They have a well-run organization. SP said, I think that Shane Wright is a steal of the draft, even though he was still top 5. I think that Cutter Gauthier is going to be a bust. I think that may be true. I was not a big fan of Cutter Gauthier. Sometimes there, sometimes disappears. Ivan Mironichenko is going to be a major steal. Yep. I mean, Hodgkin's lymphoma and everything else and being the Russian factor, I think moved him down. He was a guy who was supposed to be a bona fide top 10 pick, no doubt.
And who did he go to?
I don't remember where he went to.
Washington.
Dude, I liked Washington's draft.
So
I loved Washington's draft.
guess what? Washington drafted Ludwig Pearson.
Yeah, Ludwig Pearson. Yeah, Washington. I think I'm a fan of the Washington Capitals now. Yeah, Ludwig Pearson. I like that one, Grump.
But you're right about Miroshnichenko. You're right about him.
Yeah, he's the guy who slipped. He fell. Again, they thought we're worried about the effort levels. Well, he had cancer. So kind of explains maybe the lack of effort or the less exerted effort on the ice. Andrew S. said, I second that one, Pac-Man. And then Brian J. said, iron sharpens iron. They're a well-oiled machine. Talking about Tampa. Joseph C. says, the reason why people complain about Lou Lamorielle's age is because he's approaching his approach is antiquated. He's running the team like he's still in the 1990s Devils. The age matters because usually the younger players are far better skaters, and that's a big part of how you win in the NHL. Good skating is imperative.
True.
SP said we have to sign Romanoff. So probably $2 million. I don't know. Maybe it's like, what do you think? Like 1.5, $2 million?
No, probably
it's not going to be a lot.
I think probably $2 million.
Dobson 5 to 6 leaves about $5+ million in cap space. I think
depends
we said
on
like
the term.
4 million. It depends on how short term. We said like 4.5 maybe for Dobson. Bellows might be 1.5. We also have to sign Barzy next season. And all this to say, we're not trading Varlamov or Bailey. Yeah, we've got like $4.5 million worth of cap space. I think we're going to use that $5 million in cap space in order to go ahead and sign another defenseman. Book it down, guys. Andre M says here, here's the problem with Lou. His antics with his way or the highway only works if you win. Didn't end well in New Jersey.
True. And they forced him out of Toronto.
Yep. Exactly, Joe. But also, Lou always overpays in trades for certain. SP says it means that we can't get anyone really good, even in a trade. Joseph
Need a new GM. Need a new GM.
Joseph C said, yep, Frank, you do need to score in this league to win a championship. Of course, defensive goaltending matters, but the league is becoming more like the 80s where you need to score to win. You got to have the healthy balance. True. You can't be a team that's completely at the bottom of the barrel scoring and expect to win a championship and a cup. Frank said the Devils were a wasteland after Lou destroyed them. The Leafs didn't give Lou full control, etc. With full trade controls, etc. With red flags. But hey, at least Lou won them cups. Lou hasn't done that for us.
Yeah, it's been a long time, like 20 some odd years since he's won a cup.
Yeah. SP says all the Nemec, Yurchek, Matchuk, Minyakov, and Korchinski were all gone by our spot, but we could have gotten Joakim Kimmel.
That's a guy I wouldn't have minded getting, unless, maybe they were tunneled up on getting a defenseman.
Nazar wasn't a bad pick either.
Kimmel's better than Nazar.
Okay, can you fix your shirt again? It's starting to rub. Thank you. Frank says, should have drafted, but I hope this kid is a star for us. I hope so too. And the hockey gods need to bless the trade because we are way overdue on doing well in a trade or drafting well. We're due. Come on, hockey gods, says Frank.
Hockey
gods. He said, you want to know younger players bring 3 18-year-olds we drafted in the draft and put them on the roster. Forget waiting 3 years. Well, they won't be at the talent or skill level. Pac-Man says, yes, he was a top 4 defenseman on a bad team, but he was only a -9. Yep, absolutely. Only a -9 on a really bad team. That's a plus. Definitely is. SP says here, Odelius was top 5 in many of the combine tests and came first and second a lot of them. He was ranked the 15th prospect at Elite Prospects. Yep, I know that Robinson, the guy that Phil had talked with, spoke very highly of him, and he was shocked that he slipped as far as he did. And a few people thought he really did slip. He's a guy I think that was a good spot there. I like Odelius as well, says Frank. Tro C says here, any news on if Chara has officially retired?
Don't know, don't care, because he's not coming back here.
The Wicked 50 Cal said, at least with Barry, we probably wouldn't have traded for a 22-year-old defenseman. At least there's that. Yeah, he would have been too young a defenseman. SP said, I'm looking forward to what Wallstrom can do when given more than 7 minutes a night, not being stifled under defensive blanket, and isn't being benched for every tiny mistake, like the Michigan benching.
True.
Thanks, Grumpy. Tro C says, yeah, we won't recognize Brent Burns when he has no beard at training camp. Yes, so we're not moving for him. That's at least a plus. Shit. Whoever said that was just whoever tried to create that rumor. My God. Franco said, think Salah will be good. Wallstrom, Bellis, and Bavilla will be way better in the new system. Barry and Lou think all defense all the time.
I don't think it's going to be that drastic a change to Lane Lambert, to be honest with you.
I don't either. I think it's going to be somewhat similar still to the system. SB said, get my hopes up every year over big name free agents. Disappointed every year. I'll only believe Gaudreau is considering us when guys like Friedman tweet it. And even then, still be dubious, especially after when Panarin was supposed to sign with us. What's going on, Grumpy?
Nothing at all. Thank you.
Okay. Pac-Man says, Dave, you have to get over losing Taves. It sucked. Move on. I don't know. I still kind of hurts me a bit. Sometimes.
Well, you do have to move on because it is over.
Christopher C said, why does everything good? Why does everyone think Gaudreau isn't signing with the Islanders? Why does everybody think that Gaudreau isn't signing with the Islanders? We have money. We do. We'll have to free up. We'll have to trade players in order to free up the cap space and a roster spot for him. If we're not looking to shop Josh Bailey, I'm not sure we're looking to trade to free up the cap space. Wade F says the AHL signings remind me of the days where Garth Snow's signing of John Sim, Andy Sutton, Ruslan
Fedotenko. Yep.
Garth and Charles were also seen shopping for team gym equipment at Walmart. Please tell me that's a joke.
I don't know. But they were cheap back then.
Okay. Wow, sorry, boy. Didn't see that comment earlier, says Frank. Rob G says, are you guys gonna miss Barry Trotz this year?
Nope.
We might.
No, I'm not gonna miss Barry.
Only way we might.
No.
Let's assume this. Okay. The only situation I think we may miss him is if Lambert struggles as a first-time head coach. First-time head coach, guys. Never been a head coach before. First-time head coach at the NHL level. You're not going to be perfect. Does he get acclimated really quickly? Does he hit it in stride? Is he a natural, or is he a guy who's not designed to be a head coach? He's more designed to be a positional coach or a guy who's an assistant coach.
Okay, but if he plays the young players, because here's the thing. The group we have now, if you rolled the old guys out every night, was never winning. If Lane Lambert plays the young guys, even if they don't win, at least you know that they can't play or they can going forward. You're never going to find that out with Barry Trotz.
John Smith says, Barry who? Question
mark. Exactly.
Cameron with the Cam said, if the 2022-2023 season is anything, this 2021-2022 season, Lou is going to get fired and we'll all be grilling cheese sandwiches.
Getting grilled cheese sandwiches. Okay.
Hey, well, I just need you to tie that back into a peanut butter and jelly sandwich analogy that missed earlier, Cam, so I can go ahead and try to utilize that as a plus. SP said, I had an argument with a Bailey lover yesterday. He said, Bailey is a passer. You got to bring in a guy who could shoot, or with him who can shoot. I said, firstly, your entire team are passers. If we bring in, I don't know. It cuts off.
Maybe there's another comment. Here's the thing. Bottom line,
it won't be for Josh Bailey.
Josh Bailey sucks. That's your response to Josh Bailey sucks. How can you be a fan of him? Do you know anything about the game of hockey?
Brock Nelson could shoot the puck, and he played along Brock Nelson for quite some time this year. Years. Yeah, years plural. And SP said, I saw the poll that said Islander fans are the 10th most delusional fan base in the league. I agree.
It might be higher than that, honestly.
I wonder who was the top. Yeah, that's right. I think the Leafs and the Rangers.
That's what I was going to say. Oh, the Rangers were third. Okay.
Oh, man. Drew L said, bro, Teddy can't be that bad. Barry said he was the second best player. LOL.
Letty. Something about Letty.
Yeah, Letty. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Letty.
No.
Wade F says Goldilocks' names was Craig Stanley. He was a stinking weirdo. Yeah.
Stinky weirdo.
Drew L said, Grump, when you mentioned Goldilocks, I was thinking Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's the same thing I thought of too. And Wade F said, also Goldilocks would wait wait by the ramp with the players' entrance and ball wash the players as they drove up. He had the Rangers suck jersey, and the last time I saw him was 2015 at the Coliseum.
He was 100% Islanders without a doubt. So okay, so if he had that arrest in 2013,
he must have been out, Grump. He only missed. Hey, he missed some bad times for the Islanders, so probably was. Yeah, I can't believe he did that anyway. Frank says, "How did Lou really say that Letty was our second best player?" Yeah, he said that after the Frank. He said that after the
loss
the first time we got beaten by the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Eastern Conference Finals. He said he's our second best player by a country mile.
By a country mile. Varlamar was first. Letty was second by a country mile. I'm like, holy shit.
Yes. Yikes. It was Barry who said it. Yes, it was. I remember Goldilocks at the games. Frank said, "Oh wow." Figures Barry said that. And then Taves wins the Stanley Cup. Way to go, Barry. Eyebrows twitching. And also TJ sent you 2 things on Islanders. Never say that. I'll take a look at it. Tro C said, I've heard rumors about him a few years ago. Talking about Goldilocks. I'd so love to eat crow when Bailey scores 30 goals. What do you think the likelihood is that Bailey scores 30 goals?
You realize he's never even scored 20. He's never even scored 20 in a season. I'm sorry. He doesn't even score 30 when he's playing NHL 22 on the computer as himself. That's like, no.
Man, oh man, I tell you. And Eddie Murray, the baseball player. Couldn't even tell you who that is.
Oh, God. Hall of Famer, switch hitter, Orioles, Angels, great player. Great player.
Okay.
First baseman.
TJP says, I don't mind the trade so much. How many of our first round picks have actually worked out?
That's what I want to say.
We aren't great at developing young talent.
How about Simon Holmstrom for Alexander Romanov? Would you do that deal?
Yes.
That was our last first round pick.
Okay. When was Holmstrom drafted?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the other thing too. Just by saying because our team is incompetent when it comes to drafting players in the first round, that we should never select first round picks again. What type of freaking ridiculous ideology is that?
I just say we need new people drafting the players.
Okay. And then Frank says, yes. Did Simon Holmstrom work out great for us? What pick was he drafted at? Yeah.
I think he was 23. But here's the thing. They probably would have picked him at 13 as well. They loved him. He was a guy who was not supposed to. He was like a late second, third round pick, and they picked him in the first freaking round.
SP and TJP are not friends of each other. I don't know. They're coming at each other. But he says, TJP says, Matt Barzal is not a first-line center. I don't know. On our
no wingers. He plays on the helicopter line. No wings.
Yeah. Scott L says, with Barry gone, would you put Pelech and Pulak as a defensive pairing again? If so, would they be as dominant as they were in 2020, 2021?
I don't think so. I don't think they've ever been as good as they were at the tail end of that season. But I don't think they want to break them up, to be honest with you.
Noah W says, I don't know why Lou didn't get a better pick. Montreal had the 62nd, 75th, 60 or 96th, and 98th overall pick, and of course, you got the worst selection there.
I would have tried to push for 62.
Yeah,
why not push for 62 or
hey,
even
we want
75?
The second round. It's essentially an early third. We want that selection.
Yeah.
We had the 62nd and the 63rd overall picks. Matthew S said, hey, just got back from an amazing walk-off win on Keith Hernandez's retirement under the red jersey. And Frank said, when will the Islanders owners begin holding Lou's hands like the Leafs did?
Not soon enough.
No time.
This is his last year. I really think this is his last year.
Meatball Parm, what's up? He says, good evening. Good old return. He says, Romanoff is our next Kasperitis. Our next Kasperitis question mark.
Tell me you wouldn't love that. I would.
Sherwood says, thank God every day. I thank God every day you guys don't run this team. Okay.
Why? You're afraid of the team winning? Because we ain't won shit with this guy in charge.
I forgot, man. In the last 3 decades, I forgot we have won about 15 cups. We've been in the playoffs pretty much every year, and it's been fantastic. The last 3 decades have been a ride, Sherwood. We've been fantastic, baby. Wow, let's go.
It's been 39 years since we've won a cup.
Oh, man. I tell you, it's funny. Frank says, I love Kasperitis. And share what you said the other day. You directed this to TJ and the Grumpy Old Man audience. I don't know who they are. Dan L said, I agree. I highly doubt we are keeping Mayfield. I was about to say, we're going to have.
Can't keep him. Can
No.
I keep him?
You'd have to take a hometown discount if you did. Simple as that. And I'm just not. If I'm him, I wouldn't do that.
He's in his 30s. Move on from guys in their 30s. Don't sign him to a long-term deal. Stop it.
Frank says, like Grumpy Man said, you have to trade Mayfield in a package to get a winger. I said last year you should have been trading him. Get two. You could have got a first and a second, bare minimum, probably 2 first-round picks. He still had this year. He would have been there for your last year playoff push. Been very cheap and been very cheap for you this year. You gotten probably 2 first-round picks for that guy. And now, if you trade him at the deadline, maybe you're looking at a first and maybe a second as the top, where that would have been the floor last year.
Okay.
Oh, Sherwood says that for both of us, Grumpy. Glad that we don't run the team. Oh, right back at you, Sherwood. Meatball Parm says, me too, Frank. One of my favorite Islanders ever for Kasperitis. And more about wanting our players to get injured. Sherwood, I hope you understand there's some sort of... Does he understand sarcasm?
No.
You understand that? Do you think Grumpy wants to take a metal pipe and beat the guy out back?
I don't want to Galooly Anders Lee. I just want him to slip on a banana peel and then never have him on the team again. Put him on long-term injury.
It's meant as sarcasm. It's meant as a joke. We don't want any injury for any of these players. We don't want
Kill them all.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, good gracious. Andre M says here, what is ownership going to think and do if the Islanders don't make an impact move? Want to see UBS nearly 30% empty? At some point, lose pedigree means a diddly squat.
Diddly squat.
Yep. Holy shit. When do you think the tipping point is for them? Hey, Islander fans, remember I asked you this question before the draft? Are you starting to worry yet that we're not going to do anything to address the forward need? We kind of took a poll, and I felt kind of silly asking at first when there were so many guys out there. I said, gee, are you starting to worry yet? You starting to hit that panic button yet that we're not going to do anything to improve the offense? And now as we get closer and closer, I wonder now how many people are hitting that panic button now going, holy shit, we're not doing anything to improve the offense. Bam. In a week's time, it's going to be even more. In about 2 weeks, you're going to have everybody slamming that panic button down. Mark my words.
Yeah. Wednesday. We'll find out Wednesday, right?
Grumpy, it's not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. Right?
This Wednesday.
Holy shit. Free agency's this Wednesday.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Sorry. I don't know why I thought it was next Wednesday. Frank says, that was hilarious, Grumpy Old Man. So I show you the good comments when you get mentioned in a positive light. John Smith said, remember, Lou's Country Club is all about loyalty.
True.
Yes, absolutely. And Nashville is an awesome town. Yeah, I've seen it. Man, it is just crowded. Slam bam jammed. Shay says Arizona is now the only place to go to party with all the ASU girls.
Hey, yeah.
Sherwood says here Barzal has to be traded before the end of this next contract. He'll be over 30. At the end of his next contract, he'll be over 30.
Well, no,
if he doesn't sign back long term, you move him. This year, if he doesn't,
absolutely.
This offseason he says no, I'm giving a 1-year extension deal and I want to see where the team is. You have to
move him. You move
him proactively. Move him at the beginning of the year and start.
But then here's the thing: you move everybody. Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, everybody.
Sorokin, everybody.
Not Sorokin, and you keep the defense, but every single forward gets moved because when you lose your best player, everyone else on the forward group has to go. The defense is good enough. The goalie's good enough. The offense is what blows. Those are the guys you got to move out. All the older guys, every single one of them. I don't give a shit if you get pennies on a dollar. Get rid of them and blow it up and start over. That's what you do.
Drew L said UBS is about to have a lot of empty seats again, I feel like.
I mean, like I
think
said,
we'll be a better team than we were last year. I do think that. The defense is better, right? Char was a huge minus. We've improved defensively. Our offense, I think, is going to be about the same if we do not make improvements.
But I think we'll generate more offensive chances because Dobson's better, and we won't have the puck won't be in our zone all the time like it was last year.
Let's ask this too. Do you remember how many players we had injured last year at any one time period? We were knocking on wood, a very healthy team.
We've always been healthy.
How long do you think that streak continues?
I don't
There
know.
are some teams where they have 3 or 4 top line guys, 3 or 4 top 6 forwards, and maybe 2 top 6 forwards and 2 top 4 defensemen that are out at the same time. Do you think we as a team could handle stress like that? You think we could be successful if some injuries like that were to come around? We have been very fortunate with injuries, and I thank God we have. But do you realistically think that we're going to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to be knock on wood, a very healthy team next year"?
Probably not. I don't know.
We've had so many years we've been healthy in a row. I just think the laws of averages would dictate that we might not be so lucky in one of these years. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's not next year, but we've had a lot of luck with injuries since Lou Lamoriello has taken over. Think about the big injuries: Adam Pelech, Anders Lee. So in 4 years,
Pajot
had
missed
2
some
injuries?
time, but most guys, not too many injuries. You're right.
We've been very fortunate. Oops. God almighty. Sorry. I'm just trying to get up. I reloaded a whole bunch of new, and we got more of these things I've got to delete. Give me a sec, Grump. Sherwood says, I do think it's cool that you have a father and son podcast. I just wish you were more knowledgeable in hockey. Sherwood, right back at you, brother. Matthew S. said, kind of bummed Nashville re-signed Forsberg. That's Barzal's comp.
If you get him for $8.5 million, tell me you don't sign that up right now. Give him an 8-year deal for $8.5 million.
I would jump all over that.
Yep,
absolutely. Yep,
absolutely.
Because here's the thing: let's assume Barzal puts up points in droves this next year.
Well, he's not going to unless you get him some new forwards to play with. Who's gonna be on his line?
I'm saying, right? You talked about Brad Lambert opening things up a little bit more offensively. Lane Lambert. God damn it. Lane Lambert opening. Brad Lambert's going to open things up more offensively in the WHL for the Seattle Thunderbirds and going to put up over 100 points in this season. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, I could see Lane Lambert opening things up more offensively, that opening up more avenues for Matt Barzal. Perhaps. Goon says, TJ, I think I lost a few hours of your, I think you lost, I think I lost a few hours off your life for your stressing out reaction to the Islanders draft controversy. Grumpy, on the other hand, was cool as his cucumber.
Cool as the other side of the pillow.
Grumpy,
have you ever heard that phrase, cool as a cucumber?
Yeah, cool as a cucumber.
Okay.
I have, Grump. Keep him cute, keep him cool, Grumpy. I've heard it before.
Okay.
Frank was saying that's true. Shay said, even if we don't trade Varlamov, we'll have $5 million in cap space next year when Barzy is due a contract. Think about that. We'll lose Varlamov for nothing.
Yeah.
A guy who's a talented goalie. Think about what goalies are getting overpaid for it right now at the market. So many teams need goalies. It's not just like a handful. I know he's got a 15-team no trade clause. So many teams need goalies. You could find a team to where it works with him cap-wise. And we're just saying, I like having 2 goalies because in the playoffs, we don't play just one goalie. We alternate every game.
There were 4 playoff teams from last year looking for goalies. Why can you not manufacture a deal to move him? I don't know. It's just poor asset management again.
That's something that he just struggles with. Managing your assets, trading the ones that have value at the right time, and getting the proper amount back for him. It's something that Lou doesn't know how to do.
You cannot pay a backup goalie $5 million a year, just like you cannot pay a backup quarterback $25 million. You just can't do it.
Talking about Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah, I'm talking about Jimmy Garoppolo when he was with New England. When you suggested when Brady was playing at his level and Garoppolo was going to be a free agent, you just franchise him. Absolutely not. You don't franchise a guy who rides a damn bench. You'll move his ass. That's what you do.
Frank said the owners better wake up and see the writing on the wall. Get a co-general manager, even if they have to lie to Lou and say, don't worry about it. He's a trainee.
True. That's what I said they should. That was the first thing I said they should have done. I've been saying for how long now?
Sherwood.
Probably a year and a half, right?
Bailey is third on the team in points over the last 5 years. Sherwood, how many players? You're right, Grumpy. Yeah, right, Grumpy.
Yeah, I saw Josh Bailey's name and I'm like,
Sherwood, how many players on our team have been here for the last 5 years? I mean, has Matt Barzal played for the last 5 years? No. When did how many years has Matt Barzal been in the league for?
He's been here 5 years.
He's been here 4. Is he there 4 years in the NHL?
I thought he's been here 5. Here's the thing, Sherwood. Josh Bailey blows.
5 years.
And I'm just being generous. He sucks. He's a perimeter Pete. He's the least competitive guy I've ever seen. He hangs onto the balls, waiting for his mommy to bring him a juice cup.
Puck.
Josh
Ain't no puck.
Bailey sucks. He won't shoot the puck. Somehow he's on the power play.
Let's look at the last 5 years, because they like to throw that. He's third in points in the last 5 years. John Tavares was on our team 5 years ago. He's no longer here. Anders Lee was on our team. I assume Anders Lee is ahead of Josh Bailey points-wise. Jordan Eberle. Well, Jordan Eberle no longer plays for the Islanders. Nick Leddy no longer plays for the Islanders. Anthony Beauvillier does, but I assume he's below Josh Bailey on that. Brock Nelson does. And you start looking at defensemen like Ryan Pulock. Well, Andrew Ladd no longer is with the Islanders. Thomas Hickey no longer with the Islanders. Adam Pelech doesn't put up points. And now we get to fourth-line guys like Cal Clutterbuck. He's not going to put up points in droves. Johnny Boychuk is retired. Casey Cizikas, fourth-line guy. Josh Hosang, who played 22 games that year, again, doesn't play for the organization. So the guys, you look at the last 5 years, what do we have? Maybe even a handful of guys that can even compete in that area. That's just such low-hanging fruit, man.
I just want to say that the only thing that Josh Bailey does well is suit up every night. That's it. That's it.
I'm telling you, he serves a much better purpose in a place like Arizona or somewhere else, a team that has been miserable for years, trying to make the transition from being a miserable team to a team that is adequate to saying, I'm ready to make a move to where one day we can be a playoff contender. Josh Bailey played on a miserable Islander team for years and years and years and years and years. He can help show the way for the players, not just the main. He can help show the way for the players on how we need to take the steps from being a bottom feeder team to being a legitimate team and what it's like to be a true professional. That's what Josh Bailey serves more important than anything else. That is a bigger contribution than his on the ice contribution. And for our team, it doesn't serve us any purpose because that doesn't actually matter for us. He is more valuable to another team than he is to us because the on ice production is not good.
I've said this once, I said it twice, I've said it 100 times. When people say, what does Josh Bailey do well? These are the people who do the announcing. They never say, man, he's a great skater. Man, he's got a great shot. Man, he can body check. Man, he's a great passer. No, it's like, he's the smartest player I know. You know what, Ogilvy? It ain't like algebra class. That's all I have to say.
Algebra. SP says here, Bailey touches the puck for 3 seconds and passes it to a more talented player to action.
The king of the secondary assist. That's right. All his points are freaking secondary assists. He does nothing. He gives the puck to somebody else.
You're not going to have defensemen who put up more points than forwards in most scenarios, right? I mean, so really what we're looking at to say, out of the forward group, does he produce more points than other forwards?
And he's played.
Mappar's all produced more points than him. He's been here the last 5 years. Anthony Beauvillier probably has produced less points than Josh Bailey, so there you go. Anders Lee has produced more points than Josh Bailey. Well, our first-line right winger, Kyle Palmieri, is new, so he's only been here 2 years. That doesn't really count. Jean-Gabriel Pageau has only been here for 3 years, so when you look at the 5-year span, there's 2 years when Jean-Gabriel Pageau couldn't put up any points. Brock Nelson, I'm sure, is above Josh Bailey. That's the third guy. Or maybe Josh Bailey, he's tied. Or Anders Lee might be below him because he missed a full year due to injury. We'll see. There we go. And Josh Bailey wasn't injured. Well, and you look at the left wing spot on second line. Who the hell is the second line left winger, Grump, for us?
Anders Lee.
First line left winger.
I don't even know who it is.
They mix and jumble up the line so gosh darn much. But your bottom six is Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Parise's brand freaking spanking new to the team compared to a 5-year comparison. And you look at the right wing, Oliver Wahlstrom has only been here for 2 years. They're not any of those players. They haven't been here for 5 years. They're not even going to be on the same scale as Josh Bailey. And your fourth line of Cal Clutterbuck, Cizikas, and Martin aren't going to be putting up points in droves. Their fourth line.
Bailey plays on the first power, or he always plays on the power play.
Yeah, that too.
And he won't shoot the puck. Sorry, he sucks. Sorry. When Josh Bailey is close to your team and lead anything, it's why you don't win.
Well, it's the thing. He had to do it for 5 years. It's because a lot of the players on this team haven't been here for 5 years. Oh, Anthony Beauvillier. I mentioned him earlier, but I totally forgot to mention it.
Yeah, but Beauvillier
has less point production.
Yeah, but Beauvillier also played in the minors some.
Yes.
And he was benched some, but you look at how many games, I guarantee you that Bailey leads the team in games played. How much I guarantee you.
Maybe he does. But I'm like, man, I hate when they do that over the last 5 years. A lot of the point producers on our team that produced more points than Bailey last year weren't here on our team 5 years ago.
You know what? Brian Trottier is a leading scorer in the last 50 years of the Islanders.
Holy shit. That's right, Grump.
Shay says,
there it is.
do you
Bring
think
it back.
Salah will actually be our number 6 D man? I've seen people say he shouldn't. I'm biased towards him, but why not try it? That's what I don't know if he will, but I think he should absolutely be given that shot. And here's the thing. He doesn't need to play 20 minutes a night. You play him.
Shelter his minutes a bit.
That's right. 14, 15 minutes. The top two pairings should get the lion's share of the ice time. If that slights Scott Mayfield a little bit, so be it. But you're going to see Mayfield play on penalty kill. I would never put Salah out there. I wouldn't do it. But you know what? For backup power play, you put him out there, whatever. I mean, but to me, you can shelter his minutes and still acclimate him to the NHL.
Gungun says, I admit to not knowing who the heck Romanoff was until last night. His highlight, his video makes him seem like he's a hard hitter. Who knows? Maybe he'll make TJ squeal in excitement.
Here's the thing. It's going to be hard for TJ to cheer for him because he's really, it's almost like he's put that drawn that line in the sand.
It's not that it's hard to cheer for him. It's just that, again, I think he's a good fit for the team. I think he's a good fit for what we needed, but we overpaid. It's nothing that you disagree with either. I just think when you overpay and you lose a deal like that, I cannot say that was a good trade until Romanoff's value on the ice outweighs what a 13th overall pick could be. We're the loser of that deal.
He could already be that already. But here's the thing. I think what they should do is change his number to 13. Give Barzell a different number. Just make him number 13.
Well, Bobby Orr Jr., I don't know if he wants that. Just whatever he wants. Frank says, I agree, Sherwood. Bailey was good for us for a while, but since Lou signed up all these bad contracts, a couple guys have got to go. And Bailey doesn't play defense. He's deathly allergic to shooting the puck, isn't physical, can't skate well, and barely even passes well, except for occasion. Sherwood, I wonder where you were on those podcasts where Josh Bailey had the puck wide open in front of the net, wouldn't even shoot. Where were you?
Man, I wish you had some of those.
It was because it's going to make me go nuts. I'm happy that we're not in Islander season, so I don't have any of those to yell at. Bailey. If someone could pull all those up, my God.
Bailey.
Oh, the low lights of Josh Bailey.
Bailey sucks.
Man, freaking Bailey. I don't understand the Aho resigning. He's just I assume that's probably a two-way contract.
Yeah, and he's a number 7D man. I mean, he's going to be for nothing. What, $950, whatever the vet minimum is? That's what he's signing for at this stage.
Give me a sec. I'll pull it up.
I mean, why would he want to risk going to free agency if they offered him a 2-year deal here? Why would he? Kind of dumb. At least now he knows he's got a job for 2 years. That's why.
The only thing I could have seen him do was go back overseas. That's it.
Yeah. Well.
He wound up signing. God, you give me a sec here. A 2-year, $8.25 million a year contract.
How much?
8 years. I'm sorry, 8 years. Oh, $825,000 a year contract.
Yeah. So it's nothing.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. I mean, honestly, if he's in, I'm not sure if it's a one-way or a two-way deal. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. All those guys were signed for around that.
If you were to throw him down to the minors, if you're able to do that, he would clear waivers. Some put it like that. I'm not worried about him not clearing waivers.
Right.
And don't forget, he also gets paid $5 million. Yep. Camera at the Cam says Josh Bailey is like a blogger and is hanging off of an old man's. Oh, he's like a booger. Sorry. Oof. And he's hanging. It's late in the show, Grumpy. I saw it. I'm sorry. That is hanging off of an old man's nose and a pain at the bottom to get rid of. Oh man, like one of those hard up biggers. TJP says, "Why trade Bailey when you can make him our extra attacker for the last 6 minutes of every game?" That's true. I forgot that is a very valuable thing he brings.
Fuck, he sucks. I'm sorry. sorry, there, Sherwood. You're 100%
we just don't. Yeah, we just don't agree. SP said, "Yeah, me and TJP are arch enemies." And Frank says, that pisses me off. Wally should have been the sixth man. He's scoring a lot of goals at the beginning. Barry should have rewarded Wahlstrom.
When you want the sixth guy out there, you want a guy who put the puck in the net. That's not Josh Bailey. Matter of fact, all you need to know about Josh Bailey, if you actually watch him play, is particularly everyone just backs off him. He's not going to shoot. Just take away passing lane. Just totally neutralizes him.
Sherwood says, SP, that's a meme. And even if it wasn't, he has 20 more points than the guy in fourth. He's played here longer than any of the other players on his team.
How many points per game? That's what maybe points per game should be more important.
Points per game, Sherwood. I don't have any of those numbers, but if you had the points per game, I bet you he's not third on the team.
Yeah.
And then what's the meme? Okay, I got you. He's been awful. Secondary assist. Oh, is the meme. I mean, he has not all of his points are secondary assists. He does have a lot of secondary assists, so let's be frank about it. I mean, God almighty, how many goals? Josh Bailey once had 70 points in a year and didn't even score 20 goals.
He's never scored 20 goals in his entire career in a season. Never. 18 was his tops.
That was the year when he had 71 points.
He
or something.
played on the first line for years. He never leads a team in assists, never leaves them in goal, never leaves them in scoring, doesn't lead them in anything except for showing up every night. And he does that well.
If we don't end up with Johnny Hockey or an elite winger, take a flyer on Malkin. Why would Malkin want to come here?
I don't know.
I mean, Malkin, again, he's a Hall of Fame guy. He's kind of towards the tail end, though. He's still very good, but he's towards the tail end.
He is upset that he doesn't have a contract worked out with Pittsburgh.
Alexander said, how are you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Doing well, Alexander. Hope you are too. I don't want Malkin. He looks done, says Matthew S. That's about to say. He's heard a lot too. Yep. So, I don't know. SP said, the dude has the most secondary assists or 2-foot passes. It's not a meme. It's a fact. He's a 50-point-a-year player, says Sherwood.
He's not a 50-point-a-year player. He absolutely is not. Average out his entire career, he's like 40 points a year, and he plays a lot of. He gets a lot of ice time. He sucks. Sorry, I don't know who you're trying to sell this line of shit to. Not on this show.
Maybe a team. Okay, maybe a team's trying to inquire about Josh Bailey. And he's trying to sell at the value.
He's trolling us.
You think so?
Below market value. People will be dying to trade for him. No one wants. Expansion teams wouldn't take him not once, but twice. They didn't want him. They could have him for free. The great Josh Bailey. Neither expansion team wanted him. Nope. I'd rather take JB Berube than freaking Josh Bailey.
John Smith said, you aren't going to get any Josh Bailey love in here. We'll all cheer when he's gone. Yeah.
Sherwood, we love you, though. Don't get us wrong. We do. We love when people come on. And I mean, I'm serious. He's trolling us, right?
He's got to be. I like it, Sherwood. I appreciate
this point. I enjoy it. Hey, nothing wrong. We give everyone. Here's the thing. The one thing about this show, even if you have divergent viewpoints, we don't care.
Even if you're talking shit about how I don't know anything, it's all going to get shared.
That's okay. We're going to share it.
Doesn't matter. He's a garbage player who relies on everybody else to do the work for him. I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet, says Alexander. I wonder where you're going to be.
Josh Bailey, first of all, is not a garbage player. What did it say? For me, he's like dryer lint. If I was going to describe him as a household item, it's dryer lint. And probably just like from White's, just like lint, nothing.
Just bland. Alexander said this to me. He said, regarding the panic button we're going to hit if we don't sign an elite winger, this is what it's going to look like. Panic. Oh man, that's on Netflix. Did you ever see Tropic Thunder? Or no, this not. What is this? This is
that's
I really love everybody. Okay. This is
I knew what it was, but now you blew it. Whenever you say something, it's always wrong.
Was it?
You say something, it's always wrong. And I was going to say it. Then you say Tropic Thunder, and now I can't remember it.
Tropical something? Shit.
The team was like the Tropics. I know he played for the Tropics.
Yes, I know. Semi-pro.
Semi-pro. Was it semi-pro? Okay.
Yeah. Love Me Sexy. That movie's funny. It's on Netflix. And you'll be all wrong, but that's okay.
Hey, we hope we're wrong. We won't be, because guess what, Sherwood? I'm never wrong.
If I'm wrong, that means Bailey's putting up 70+ points. If Bailey's putting up 70 points, we're in the playoffs, no doubt.
If Bailey's putting up 70, that means Barzell's putting up 180.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yeah.
If Bailey's putting up 70 points, he's playing back in the juniors as an overage player in the queue.
I love how you threw the Q in there too.
Playing on the third line.
Well, Sherwood, he'll be a fit great with the Coyotes. Trade him. Trade Bailey. We need the cap space. Yep. Again, he's third on a team in points behind Barzal and Nelson. Lee is fourth, and Bevillier's 30 points.
Okay. Lee missed almost a whole year.
Whole year with injury. Missed 60 games with injury, and Bevillier is just wildly inconsistent. Bevillier is of a point production caliber of a guy near Josh Bailey. And hold on, was Bevillier a rookie the year that Josh Bailey put up like however many points he did?
Some of that, he was in the minors.
Yeah.
He was in the minors. And here's the thing, he was playing on the third line. He was getting limited minutes. I mean, let's look at games in minutes. How about points per minute? You're going to see Bailey right down at the freaking bottom of the league. He blows.
Bottom of the league, he said. Again, he does absolutely nothing. Yeah. Breaking news. Oh, Anderson, we got that one already. SP said the fact that Bailey's on the third on the team is more of a knock on our offense than a compliment on Bailey.
Yeah, one of the worst offenses in the league, and Bailey's not even the top of that.
Sherwood's got to be a Toronto fan, says Andrew L. Alexander says, it's amazing how Islander fans think that Andrews Lee is a great leader and that he's a consistent goal scorer. Yeah.
He sucks too. Get rid of him, piece of shit. Overpaid piece of trash. Average Anders Lee. I gave him that nickname how long ago, and it is more apropos today than it's ever been. Average Anders Lee.
Alexander says, I think Quinn Finley is a sneaky good pick that could end up being a first liner.
I think it's a sneaky good pick. I don't know if he's a first liner, though.
He better be as good as Ludwig Pearson. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you this much. You talk about your three amigos, you'll never hear the end of Ludwig Pearson. If he pans out, you're never going to hear the end from me on Ludwig Pearson and the fuck up that we made.
It's a little bit different when it's a third round pick as opposed to the first.
I knew the guy was going to be successful day of beforehand and day after. Grump.
Can I tell you, just pump the brakes because he just got drafted. You don't even know if he's going to be any good.
Ludwig Pearson's going to show up. I'm letting you know that ahead of time.
We'll find out.
I'm not saying we should trade Varlamov, just saying that. I hope we do trade Varlamov. I think we've got to trade him.
Yes.
It's weird paying a backup.
Can't pay a backup more than the starter to play. You can't pay a backup who plays 35 games a year, like as many points as Josh Bailey averages his whole career. You can't pay him $5 million a year.
Frank says, I think they keep Varlamov because Sorokin and their friendship. We can't renegotiate Varlamov's $3 million to $3 million. No, he's not going to do that.
Yeah, he's not taking a pay cut. And there's no way he should be signed back. They should move him. I don't even, if you move him at the deadline, that's fine too.
Sherwood now says, now these guys don't know how goaltending works. $9 million for the best goaltending tandem in the world. Imagine playing. Okay, saying we got the best goaltending tandem in the world is kind of rich. It's funny because goalies that are really, really talented, even if they have a shitty tandem partner, they still might be better because they've got a better goalie than us as a whole. When guys like Shesterkin put up a 9.4 save percentage, doesn't matter how shitty Georgiev is, they're still fantastic because when Varlamov has a 9.1 save percentage, well, Georgiev just has to be a little worse than that, and there's still a better goalie tandem than Varlamov and Sorokin.
Here's the thing. When we had Grice and Leonard in goal making $4.5 million a year, we won the Jennings Trophy for the best best goaltender, right? For the best goaltending tandem in the league. I mean, it's a team concept in defense. Varlamov is an okay goalie. That's what he is. You'd never pay your starter less than the backup. You don't do it. Sorry, you don't do it.
Yeah. Shay says, I think we should trade Varlamov, but what if Sorokin gets stuck in Russia? Is Schneider seriously going to be okay? I will say this much too about Russia. It's a fluid situation. In camp doesn't start for another 3 months, or the games don't start for another 3 months.
Yeah.
So you still have another 3 months before games start. Who knows what the situation is even going to look like in Russia and Ukraine 3 months' time? Maybe it's still going on. Maybe they're starting to reach some amicable agreement. Who the hell knows?
The whole thing is if you can move Varlamov for a viable asset going forward that makes the team better, that's what you do. He's a backup goalie making $5 million per. Gets $5 million off your cap. Maybe you get yourself another player or a draft pick for next year, whatever you want to do. And then you pick up a goalie on the cheap. He's only going to play 30 games a year. That's it.
Is Tampa, look at all the teams that have Russian goalies. Do you think Tampa's worried that Vasilevsky won't make it back here to the United States? I mean,
that's like
Do you think that Florida's worried that Bobrovsky won't make it back to the United States? None of these teams are worried about that stuff.
Yeah, but that's like saying, okay, well, you need Varlamov in Well, do you think that
we need Varlamov in case Sorokin gets injured?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Vasilevsky's backup was Brian Elliott. Okay. Name some other big goalie. Their backups are just freaking backups who get paid virtually nothing. If you lose your starting goalie, it doesn't matter. You're not winning anyway. To have a back, it's like having a backup quarterback who makes $15 million a year. You don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't do it.
Also worried about him. Don't worry. Don't worry.
You don't worry about, well, what if this guy gets hurt? Okay, maybe if a guy's perpetually injured, okay, you double down, but not for a guy like Sorokin or not for a guy like Tom Brady.
Gungun says, Grumpy, which side of Led Zeppelin 3 is better? More rocking side 1?
I like songs on both sides. I love the Immigrant Song though. So I think that's my favorite song on the whole album. So I'm going to go with side 1.
Great question, Gungun. Personally, I always take rocking. Mr. B says, we listened for the first hour, played 2 hours of hockey, and you're still on for the drive home. Yeah. Good gracious. Yeah. Frank said, who did the Islanders get with Montreal's fourth round pick? Isaiah George is who we got. If it works out, great trade, fingers crossed. Shay says Salo plays on the power play too, but I think Pulak would and should be on it over him.
One thing we've learned is Ryan Pulak should not be on the power play. Sorry. No.
If he could learn how to hit the freaking net, I'd say yes, but
he's not even good moving the puck at the top. He's not the answer. I mean, I thought he was going to be the answer, but he's not. He's not. He's been given multiple chances.
John Smith said Aho and Salo were both one-way deal. Everybody else is two-way deal. Okay, gotcha. So they'd have to waive Aho to move him down. I still even think even if you waive him, you're still fine.
That's good news for Salo, though, isn't it?
Yes, I'd say he's going to be up with the team next year. If not, seventh defenseman as the guy who's going to be with us.
Do we know what Salo got?
Yeah, Salo got. Give me a sec. I'll pull that up.
Okay, because for me that says okay, Salo's going to be our bottom pairing guy. You're not signing two guys to one-way deals. That gives you, that's not like you say, okay, we're going to have 8 defensemen on one-way.
$800K a year.
$800K?
2 years at $800K a year.
I mean, to me, that's a good deal.
Nooner Roger Habs says, hi, everybody. What's up? Habs fan. And Cameron at the camp said, sorry, I can't spell tonight. I'm falling asleep like Lou on the job. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Oh, hey, Habs fan. What do you think about Romanoff? He's going to respond here.
Yeah.
Shay says, we all know Lou won't do anything because he'll be busy, too busy doing Wii Fitness all off. Alexander said that, hey, just a thought, guys, about Malkin.
I don't think he'd want to come here. I think he wants to play back in Pittsburgh.
The Habs fan says he's really solid defender. Not afraid to hit. He's solid on defense.
That's what we need. That's what we need.
I trade Bailey for a water bottle. Yeah.
Bailey's not even worth a used water bottle. What is that piss in it? He's not even worth that.
Oh, God. Angel said if Sherwood isn't trolling, he needs to get a health check on himself instantly. Oh, God.
I think he is trolling. That's all right, though. We enjoy it.
Hash fan said, yes, Empire. He will be playing a long time in the NHL, and I'm upset they traded him. Talking about Romanoff. And Brett W says, dryer lint.
Matter of fact, next season, I'm going to break up some dryer lint and just say, Josh Bailey, woohoo. Every time he scores, I'm like, here he is.
Oh,
see-through, translucent.
Oh, man. Hold on a second. These are always good. Bailey is like a box TV sitting in your grandma's garage.
Oh,
God almighty.
Oh, we're going to get a lot of these now.
If Bailey puts up 71 points, he's got 69 secondary assists.
72 of them are secondary assists.
I do like this one. Tim Ward says, sorry, but TJ's a moron.
Oh.
Thanks for tuning in, Tim. Thanks for getting that one comment in.
Look how the baby thinks it's hilarious. So do I.
The baby's got a smile on her face.
That sure does.
It's a dress. Her face. Yeah. There it is. Tim Ward, always good for one of those podcasts.
He says that every podcast to you?
Every podcast.
Hey, you know what?
Right back at you, Tim. Right back at you, baby. Stay strong.
Tim's my new hero.
Frank says, yes, the old TV may work. God damn it. Or God, but hey, it's a Bailey. And then Wade F says, besides on Long Island, have you guys seen the Islanders play on the road? Yeah. Carolina.
Ooh, sorry, God. Oh, hey, take your time. I mean, what the heck?
That's what happens, Grumpy. We're on for 3 hours and 30 minutes. Frank said, I saw the Islanders play the Hartford Whalers back in Hartford in the day. Woof. Alexander says, I think we could have moved Varlamov for a first rounder if Lou was smart. We could have moved him for back. We could have moved him back for a first rounder. Yeah. Bad asset management.
Look at what goalies are. Teams are desperate for goalies.
A
You have a backup.
Georgiev.
You have a backup who's arguably better than the majority of those guys who got moved, right?
2 3s and a fourth.
I mean, tell me that you couldn't have gotten a second round pick for him.
At least a second in next year's draft or this year.
Like I said, I think any way you look at it, even if we're contenders next year for a playoff spot, you move him at the deadline.
Yes. You do not play 2 goalies in the postseason. You play one guy.
One guy.
Simple. Shooters Puck Hockey says, I seriously have a feeling that Lou won't do anything in free agency day like all the big names are running out. Yep. There's going to be nothing serious to do. Yeah. I tell you, I feel like we are going to be hitting the panic button come day 2 or 3 of free agency. We're going to be slamming that panic button.
It's day one. Everything's day one. If you're going to day 2, sorry.
As James says, Bailey's got 89 secondary assists and 80 missed goals. Oh, man. John Smith said, Fedotov was a draft dodger. Sorokin met his mandatory military commitment. He should be fine. Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not worried about
worried about him at all.
Not at all. Alexander said, do you guys consider Pulak a bust? No, I don't.
Okay. I'll tell you what.
If Pulak's considered a bust, this kid Romanoff better be Bobby Orr Jr.
I'm going to tell you what. I think this kid is going to be better than Pulak.
Oh! Pulak bounce. Holy shit.
Okay. Pulak is not a great skater.
Pulak's a good defenseman, and he also adds offensive talent.
He's not good offensively. He's not.
Okay. He puts up more than 13 or 19 points in 133 games. Good.
That's his role, though. Imagine if he was good at
defense. He's not a great skater, but he's a good defender, Ryan Pulak.
Well, this kid's supposedly a good defender, too, and he's younger.
I'm telling you one thing, Grumpy, if you're going to start
I love this kid. He's a fan favorite for me already. I'm going to get myself a Romanov jersey.
I'm not ready to consider Pulak a bust. He's a top 4 defenseman.
Yeah, he's a top 4 defenseman, but you would expect more from
He provides more offense than Romanoff ever will.
Okay, but you would expect that, Pulak should be more. I mean, as an offensive defenseman, should put up more points. Where's my Romanov jersey? That's what I want.
You can buy it, Grumpy, don't you worry. SP said everybody knows that the best way to trade value out of a given player is to publicly broadcast that you're making them available / looking to move them. # Islanders.
Yeah, but he never moves anybody. I don't care what he says.
Facts. Spitting some facts. I don't know. And then Drew Hill said, ignore TJ. I don't mind when people do it. I honestly, it's like water off a duck's back. I can care less what somebody who doesn't know me and probably just disagrees on something small thinks you're an idiot. You're dumb. It comes with the territory of being online. It is what it is. SP says here, but I appreciate Drew. I do appreciate it. SP said, and with the 2023 first overall pick, the New York Islanders are pleased to select from the Regina Pats, Connor Bedard. That wouldn't have
I'd love to get him.
Alexander says, Grump, what do you think of the new profile picture?
I was going to say, Mrs. Diaz looking sharp, and the less we see Alexander, the better. Just kidding.
And the family's in there too.
I love the kids. I love the kids.
We
love you, Alexander. You know we do.
Frank says, Pulak's got a cannonball. He's got a cannon like off of a battleship. LOL. It's and he's a great player.
Okay. He's like is a depth charge dropped off the back of a thing trying to hit a submarine. Never does. Just hopes he gets close.
Wasn't Romanoff a big scorer in juniors? No, he was not. He didn't even play in juniors. So he played in the MHL before he was drafted, which is the league underneath the KHL. Then in the KHL, he played the KHL seasons are like 45, 50 games long. We pulled up earlier. He's putting up like 4 or 7 points in the KHL. And then he went right to the NHL.
And he played with Sorokin for 3 years.
Correct. That's correct. Yep. Well, I think it was 2. Is it 3?
3, I heard. Sorokin was there a long time.
NHL for a bit, huh? SP said, I bet TJ loves Josh Bailey. I do. I love Bailey. Yeah, Bailey. Frank says, yeah, it's what I heard, Shay. No, he's not. He was not a big scorer. Alexander says, Phil is funny. He says that Pavillier, Bailey, and Lee are better wingers than Wallstrom.
I'll just say they play a lot more than Wallstrom.
They do play a lot more than Wallstrom, and they're given premium opportunities and better chances to score than Wallstrom.
Wallstrom had 9 power play goals, all in the first half. Then took him off the power play.
He didn't play the power play the last 26 games of the year.
Yeah. I mean, and by that, here's the thing.
Phil always said, Phil, I've got a bone to pick with Phil. Phil always does this shit where he says, oh, well, look at the 5-on-5 production. You know, a lot of his goals come on the power play. The funny thing is power play goals count just the same as the 5-on-5.
I mean, yeah, did they only count like for half a goal? I don't know.
They count the same. Phil looks at it as negatively if you have too many power play points and not 5-on-5 points. If you're over here scoring 70 or 50 points on a power play and only have 30 points on 5-on-5 play, you're still scoring a point a game. I'm still happy with you.
How many power play goals does Ovechkin have every year? I bet you half his goals are on a power play. I mean, my God. Look at the guys who score in the league. Look at McDavid. How many power play goals does he have?
I'm sure that these players also have 5-on-5 production, but let's see here.
But here's the thing. He was getting limited minutes. What was he paying? 10 minutes a game? You got Bailey was getting 18. Lee was getting, 18, 19. But even Pavillier. I mean, come on.
29 points on the power play and 29 of his 90 points were on the power play. So
about a third. So a third of his points on the power play. Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, I don't mind if they score on a power play or a 5-on-5. It makes me happy either way. Robert G said, somebody tell Bailey that the puck goes into the net, not pass, fumble.
He sucks.
Alexander says, thanks. And my wife just asked if you would like to be Mrs. Grump.
My wife just asked if you would like to be Mrs. Grump. Well, I wouldn't like to be Mrs. Grump. I'll be Mr. Grump.
Mr. Grump. Pulak is all glass.
I was going to call her Mrs. Alexander, but I'm like, well, she's not Mrs. Alexander. She's Mrs. Diaz.
Pulak is all glass. 101 mile an hour miss every time.
Pretty much.
And he is a lot. Hopefully, he's working on it all summer long, hitting the goddamn net. Well, just can't do it.
You know what? How old is he now? 28? Yeah, doubtful.
Christian Arnold is a nerdy virgin who roots for the demise of the Islanders. Who the hell is Christian Arnold?
I don't know.
I don't know who that is. Wade. SP says, by the way, how was Thor 4? Didn't hear good things. Going to see it sometime soon.
Not as good as it was. Disney's got a problem. I'm just going to say that. It was nowhere near as good as Ragnarok. It suffers from the same issues that all the Phase 4 Marvel movies have suffered from, in my opinion.
Jarrell said, pass, fumble reminds me of Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold.
Very true.
Alexander says here, oops, I'm sorry, my spelling is weak. LOL. She asked, would you like to be her? Would you like her to be Mrs. Grump?
She looks like she doesn't look like she's grumpy. She looks very happy.
I say she's Mrs. Happy. She can't, by grump, you got to be grumpy by nature.
I just want to say something. Alexander outkicked his coverage as
well. Drew Ellis says that also, TJ, when things get rough on here in a podcast, just look up images of capybaras. Oh, yeah, no, there's a little tiny little hamster, a big hamster. They're smaller than a dog, but they look like a hamster. But Grump, man, we're here at the end. You're at the end of the show. What do you want to say before we wrap things up?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for watching the podcast. Thank you, Grump, as always. The review of the 2022 NHL Draft for the Islanders is in the books. We talked a lot. Thank you, Grump. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow on TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Link in the description below, or as a featured page on our YouTube channel. We'll see you there tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll also see you Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the Islanders Never Say Die podcast,
where we'll be breaking down what all the other teams in the league did in free agency and lament at the fact that the Islanders did absolutely nothing.
Yes, that'll be, I'm sure, another sad day. But thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you again, and thank you, Grump.
My pleasure.